Hello, hello, friends. Me. Figaro. Yes. yes. I'm feeling better. Back up to speed. It's the thrice canceled live stream. Thanks for all the support and well wishing. Obviously, I do work very hard and do a lot of live streams and a lot of videos. And it's nice to have so many of you reminding me to take care of myself. Blah, 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 blah. I am feeling I am better. I am back. And yes, we're here to talk about more stuff regarding the creation of the others. Somebody very cleverly pointed out that since we're continuing on from the stream, the creation of the others, this being the exile of the others. I've accidentally copied the first books of the Bible, Genesis and then Exodus, creation and then exile. So the third stream is obviously going to have to be law of the others, Leviticus. And Deuteronomy, gosh, I forget what Deuteronomy means, so I'm not sure. What that's going to be. Yeah, I am okay. I just had a little bit of a cold or something, or maybe I had COVID. I don't know. I've been vaccinated, so it's possible I had mini COVID symptoms. I probably just had like a little bit of a cold or something, but I played it safe in quarantine just to, just in case. But yeah, I'm doing good, and I'm here. So just real quick, there was a House of the Dragon trailer that dropped this morning. If you guys want to make a couple of comments about it, I feel like most people are kind of rushing to judgment, either condemning it for one wig that they don't like or one casting they don't like, or getting ready to praise it to the high heavens like most people did with Game of Thrones. I'm just going to wait and see. I hope it's good. I hope it's at least decent. I'm fully prepared for it to be bad. I'm not going to be like heartbroken if it isn't good. I'll be pleasantly surprised if it is. The Iron Throne does look better in the trailer. I will definitely say that. I thought the Valerians look pretty cool. I especially think Corlys looks awesome. And at the very least, I hope that the dragon fights they go with the fights closely to how they're described in the show, so that we can get the symbolism brought to life. And then in the future, when I make videos about the dragon fights, I can steal their footage, if nothing else. But yeah, of course, I recommend, if you want really good House of the Dragon coverage, of course, the Gray Area channel is a good place to go. I've been watching Gray Area and Raw Wrist as far as like when I want to watch a little video about what's going on with House of the Dragon. Those two channels both covered pretty well, so I'd recommend those two. And Gray in particular is my homie, so always like to recommend her channel. But yeah, I don't know what there really is to say about House of the Dragon yet. Like I said, I hope it's decent. It's not really much to go on yet. I laugh when I see the videos talking about plot spoilers and leaks and stuff, and it's like, we know what we mostly know what the story is. It's in Fire and Blood. So yeah. In any case, I hope they do something. Yeah, I saw Quinn put out a video just before I went on. Looked skeptical, of course. That makes sense. I know Quinn's mostly fired up for the Dune movie, which we're gonna go see together. We scored our tickets today for the Dune premiere. So yeah, Minty Maelstrom will be in America by then to go with me too. So I'm kind of excited about that. But enough about my personal life. Let's talk about the others and the creation of the others. Like I said, we were oh yeah, well that's true. Matt Smith is people debated about how Targaryen he looks, but he's certainly a good actor. So I'm hoping that he'll do a good Daemon. Somebody pointed out that he doesn't really look older than Rhaenyra, which is true. But who knows? I've got my hopes up for Matt Smith and Daemon. Daemon's one of the best characters, obviously. Not best as in a good person, but as in a good character. And so yeah. Where'd I get this shirt? You know, I think I scored it off of Macy's clearance rack. I'm a notorious raider of the Macy's clearance rack. And yeah, I think I was, in fact, I was leaving. I had grabbed like a t-shirt or something and I was leaving and I was going up the escalator, turned around and saw this shirt back downstairs where I had just came from. And I literally went up and then back down the escalator just to check it out and then went ahead and bought it because I was doing another stream like 2 days later. And I just figured, you know, so there. Where I want to start today, we've got a lot of stuff to cover. I'm not going to cover it all in this stream. What I've essentially done, guys, is I have made a list of locations and scenes in the story which are depicting the creation of the others, the home of the others. Sometimes it looks like a fortress of the others. Sometimes it seems like the woods of the others or the heart of winter itself. All of these things are basically the same idea. Because the others are mysterious and we haven't seen the heart of winter, just as we haven't seen a shy, George is going to dole us out clues about those things through symbolism and stuff like that. So when we go to places that seem to mimic, like I said, a home world of the others or the heart of winter, we're going to be able to look around and find clues about the creation of the others. And that was the case at Craster's Keep, which is kind of what we spent time breaking down in the last stream, creation of the others. And so at Craster's Keep, well, actually, before we go into Craster's Keep, I want to give you the list of places real quick, just so you guys can have this in your mind. I'm going to list them all out, and then we're going to go to some of these places and check out the symbolism there. We're going to spend more or less time because some of these places we've already been to in some of my videos and stuff. But what I want to do in this stream is to sort of give you an overview and show you how they're all consistent, and then we can start mining them for messages about the creation of the others. That is essentially what we're going to do. So that list, and I'll share my screen with my notes real quick. And let's get rid of the sidebar. There we go. So as you can see, we have the Nightfort, Craster's Keep, Castle Black, and the Wall, which serves really as its own thing, but also an adjunct to Castle Black and the Nightfort, obviously. The Eyrie, which is where we're going to spend a lot of time today. That's the main thing I want to show you is the Eyrie and the Moon Door and what all that means. Then there's also the Tower of Joy, which we're going to compare to a couple of the places, such as Craster's Keep and the Nightfort. The White Sword Tower, where the Kingsguard live. Of course, the Kingsguard are symbols of the others. And then we've got the Sept of Baylor, where the Warrior's Sons live, and the Warrior's Sons also are symbols of the others, with their mirror armor and their crystal sword on a field of black sigil, which looks exactly like an other holding a crystal sword at nighttime, which is when they come out. Then there's 3 woods, which are doing sort of a similar thing: the Whispering Wood, the Wolf's Wood, and the Haunted Forest. The Haunted Forest is where the others actually live, and we have the Waymar prologue scene there. The Wolf's Wood is where Asha and Stannis do the Wayward Bride action, and of course we read the Wayward Bride recently. Oh, did I skip White Harbor? Yeah, White Harbor as well, with its Sept of the Snows and its God's Wood with its very old Weirwood. We've been there before. So Whispering Wood, the Wolf's Wood, and the Haunted Forest. The Whispering Wood, of course, would be Jaime and Robb battling in the woods there. And then we've got a couple of dreams we're going to talk about today. Bran's dream of the Heart of Winter, and Jon's dream where he sees Bran as a tree, and Bran boops him on the forehead, and then Jon beams into his wolf and sees the Milkwater and the wildlings. So I'm definitely feeling better. Like I said, I'm not sure. I have notes on all of these places. We're definitely not going to have time to do that. Even if I was up for a 3-hour stream today, I'm not intending to stream for 3 hours. So we're going to go through some of this. We'll see how my voice goes. And then might do another stream like on Friday. We're just basically going to keep going with this until we've exhausted all the information. And I do want to tell you that, as usual, you can support the program via paypal.me/mythicalistronomy. You can send in questions or comments or just donations. You can also use the super chat function inside of YouTube. And we've got a new feature, which is called subscribers, or memberships, rather. If you hit that red join button, you can pay $5 a month, and then you get the rank of squisher. And you can see some people in our chat have green text and a squisher icon next to their name, such as Mbox and Shadow Demon and Brooke and the Mighty Monarch. And you get to use a custom emojis that I created, which I need to make 5 more, by the way, and a couple other fun things. It's just a little fun thing to do. It's nothing too big, but it's kind of fun. And yes, I'm a fan of the word boop. You got to boop sometimes. So, yes. So we started at the Nightfort last time. And the first thing I want to do, or Craster's Keep, rather. And the first thing I want to do is just, how do you sign up? It's with the red join button. It's right next to the subscribe button. I'm not sure if you can do it via mobile. But you can definitely do it on a home computer. There should be a red join button. And thank you, everyone who's done that. Yeah, Downtown Clowny Brown, the Mighty Monarch. Yeah, so Craster's Keep. The main action that we have at Craster's Keep, it starts off, of course, with the idea that Craster and Gilly parallel Knights, King, and Queen. They're sacrificing their sons to the others, just as it was said that Knights, King, and Queen were found to be sacrificing to the others. And we know that actually means giving your children to the others to make more others. And we debated about what that might mean, whether the babies might be aged up and turned into White Walkers, or perhaps sacrificed with their sort of mana, their magical energy from their blood being harvested to make a White Walker, which means that the making of the White Walkers is another type of blood magic, which makes sense because everything is blood magic, essentially. And blood magic, the idea with blood magic is essentially that just as ice and fire carry the power of magic and the dragon glass carries fire magic mojo, the most magic resides in life itself. So that's the idea with blood magic, is when you sacrifice somebody, you're harvesting the power of life that resides in their blood and using it to power a magical act. And we've seen blood magic done in every medium. A lot of the fire magic is blood magic. Some sorcerer cuts off Vari's balls and burns them and gets a blue flame, and some voice speaks out of the flame. The Weirwood magic is blood magic. Qyburn is doing blood magic to create Ungregor. So there's a lot of blood magic, and blood magic is not confined to any one, like ice or fire or anything like that. So is there a source for blood magic, like raw source? No, I think it's just literally the power of life, because that's what's driving the story, like the cycle of the seasons, the idea that the others want to extinguish all life. It's all about life and death here. Yeah, some random peony chop and sorcerer. Exactly. So got Craster and Gilly, like I said. And then we've got this above and below action where up in the loft you have, and I'll go ahead and share my notes. This might make it easier, especially when we're doing this list here. Hey, thanks, Ivan Torres, new member. Appreciate that. So at Craster's Keep, below we've got Craster, who's our Knights King figure, and a bunch of black brothers. And one of the black brothers, Bannon, is freezing to death. And eventually there'll be a mutiny, where there'll be a fight, a schism inside the Night's Watch, and the brothers will fight each other, of course. And there's even a Garth on Garth violence during the mutiny. One of the Garths kills another Garth. There's 3 Garths on the Night's Watch, just as there are 3 Baratheon brothers, by the way. Qyburn is sort of creating, I would call them pseudo-science whites more than science whites. It's obviously an ode to Frankenstein, and I don't think we're supposed to understand exactly what Qyburn is doing, but it's definitely blood magic, because Cersei's giving him all these people that he takes down there and tortures and kills and uses up, quote unquote, and then needs more people. So he's doing something with their life and blood in order to create Gregor. So it's definitely blood magic. Although it does sort of seem to be like its own thing, kind of. So let's see here. Then we got, so like I said, down below, we've got Craster, we've got the Black Brothers, Bannon freezing to death, and then up in the loft, Gilly, our Night's Queen figure, is giving birth to baby monster. Like, one thing I didn't mention is that the ladder is kind of an important symbol. There's a ladder between the loft and the ground floor. And the ladder, of course, is a great symbol for the tree, but like the cosmic world tree, and specifically the Weirwoods, because the Weirwoods enable you to ascend to the heavens, to grab the fire of the gods, the power of the gods. I don't think I need to belabor the point, but the ladder is serving as a symbol of the tree, which men can use to go to the heavens, you know, if you will. Of course, there was 12 bonfires outside to give us a sort of last heroes dozen math. And there was a bunch of talk about dragonglass and killing the others at the same time. So that was a nice juxtaposition. Yeah, blood sugar science magic. That's good. I like that. And then another thing I didn't point out. So Craster is the Night King, right? And the whole point of me pointing out that Bannon, the Night's Watch Ranger, is freezing to death at the same time that baby monster is born, this other baby, kind of implying that the Night's Watch Rangers who were killed, the last heroes, 12 Rangers, their deaths somehow powered the creation of the others, but then they were turned into green zombies. And so it seems that the others and the original zombie Night's Watch have this common origin in this blood magic sacrifice that Azor Ahai performed. And so that's why we see Bannon freeze to death, and simultaneously the baby is born. So it's implied that his death has helped pay for the life of this baby. But then later they burn Bannon, and he seems to rise in the fire. And we know that burning Night's Watch Rangers symbolize the fiery undead Rangers. Like, you know, think of John's dream defending the wall with the red burning Longclaw. And the only Night's Watch brothers that are defending it with him are those Scarecrow Sentinels, right? And the Scarecrow Sentinels, of course, are named after dead Night's Watch brothers. They're dressed like Night's Watch brothers. The straw man symbolism gives them the green man, King of Winter, Wicker Man symbolism. And then they get lit on fire. And of course, all that compares to Beric Dondarrion, who is a fire white, and he's called Scarecrow Knight, and he's literally on fire. So we have this idea that John is supposed to defend the wall with fire whites, and I'm going to talk about that in the last Melisandre Secrets video. Or more importantly, the last heroes, original crew of Night's Watchmen would probably have been fire whites. I know Cold Hands is an ice white, who is a Night's Watch Ranger, and so it's possible there was both, or maybe fire whites turn into ice whites after enough time or something. I don't know. But the point is, the Scarecrow Sentinels show us burning Night's Watch Rangers, and that's the same thing that Bannon shows us when he appears to rise in the pyre. Okay, now I'm going to break from the Craster's Keep here and jump over to the Nightfort, because there's a great comparison at the Nightfort to this bifurcation of others and Rangers. And it's the Scarecrow Sentinels. I'm sorry, not the Scarecrow Sentinels, the 79 sentinels. So there's a really nice dichotomy between the fiery scarecrow sentinels that John has in his dream that symbolize, again, fire-whited Night's Watchmen, and the 79 sentinels who I think symbolize others. And so let me read this paragraph for you here. This is from Bran's Nightfort's chapter. It says, "There are ghosts here," Bran said. Hodor heard all the stories before. Hodor had heard all the stories before, rather. But Jojen might not have. Old ghosts from before the Old King, even before Aegon the Dragon, 79 deserters who were sent south to be outlaws. One was Lord Riswell's youngest son. So when they reached the Barrowlands, they sought to shelter at his castle. But Lord Riswell took them captive and returned them to the Nightfort. The Lord Commander had holes hewn in the top of the wall, and he put the deserters in them and sealed them up alive in the ice. They have spears and horns, and they all face north. The 79 sentinels, they're called. They left their posts in life, so in death their watch goes on forever. Years later, when Lord Riswell was old and dying, he had himself carried to the Nightfort so he could take the black and stand beside his son. He'd sent him back to the wall for honor's sake, but he loved him still, so he came to share his watch. So the Scarecrow Sentinels are fiery, and the 79 Sentinels are frozen. And you'll remember that when the Night's Watch Rangers limp back to Craster's, they're called frozen crows. And Bannon himself is literally a crow that freezes. So these freezing Night's Watch Rangers, those are the ones that become the others. And here we see a ton of clues about that. So first of all, they're planted in the ice, just like trees. They dig holes in them, little starter holes like a seed. Then they put the person in there, and they're holding a spear. So the spear gives us that tree shaft symbol. And they're literally buried in a little hole like a plant. Then they're sealed up, alive, and their watch goes on forever. So they're kind of dead, kind of alive, and they live forever. Right? They've all got horns, and they're talking about war horns, but of course, think horns as in green men, because of course the others are ex-green men. That's the idea. So also, of course, the idea that we have trees in the story that are called sentinels. Sentinel pine, I guess it's a kind of pine. So the sentinel trees, sometimes they get covered in snow and turned into snowy sentinels. Then at Winterfell, when they make those snowmen on the wall to mimic all the lords that are there, you know, Barbie Dustin and the Boltons and all that, they're called the snowy sentinels. So these idea of sentinels means they're trees who are also watchmen. And that describes both the Night's Watch and the others. We've seen they both have tree person symbolism. But specifically the others, they are tree people. They are frozen tree people. And that's what the 79 Sentinels are. And they're also at the Nightfort. And of course, the Nightfort is where the Night's King created the others with Night's Queen. So it's a pretty nice parallel to the Craster's Keep scene, where we have Bannon being both frozen to power the creation of another baby, but then also later being resurrected in the flames when all the Night's Watchmen gather around and say the words, you know, the words of ritual. So pretty cool there. It's a nice parallel. But let's go back to Craster's Keep and finish up, because I got a couple more notes about Craster's Keep here. And yeah, I'm doing better today. I'm nursing myself along here. Those of you who came to the aborted stream on Sunday, it only lasted about 15 minutes. I did do a really good opening monologue about honey as the frozen fire of the gods. So if you caught that, congratulations. It no longer exists on the internet. It was a one-time performance that you guys got. So we'll come back to the frozen honey symbolism when we get to the Eyrie, which is like a frozen honeycomb. And also like to give a shout out. I got a PayPal on Sunday, right before I shut it down. It was from Feminudist, and she sent me another one today. Vari's ritual castration parallels abuse that is done in the name of religion, including indoctrination with stories like the flood, to foster indifference to the suffering of those who do not belong. Feminudist, you've done it to me again. Let's see if I can wrap my brain around this. Yeah, I'm not quite. This seems like a longer thought that we need to talk about on Twitter. I'm not sure how to respond to that right now. So let's see here. Craster's Keep. So we talked about Bannon. Let's see. Like I said, the mutiny begins this schism of the Night's Watch, where we see some of the Night's Watch remain true, and some of them are the other brothers, the traitor brothers. And remember that Night's King, of course, was said to be a Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who essentially broke his vows and then bound his brothers with strange sorceries. Now, this is a line I actually want to unpack here. So the strange bound his brothers with strange sorceries. This is another clue that the others in the Night's Watch have a common origin. So the Night's Watch is, Night's King is creating others with Night's Queen, right? And this seems to be an act of shadow binding in some sense, because somehow we're taking these magical ice children of Night's Queen and we're binding white shadows from the trees to the baby or to an icy golem body that we make from the baby, something along those lines. Durndon pointed out that because Night's Queen is icy herself, the babies that she is popping out might not have been children at all. They might have been more like the shadow babies that Melisandre makes. So it's possible the tree spirit gets bound to some sort of cold shadow baby or something like that. And it's only Craster and Gilly that have this intermediate step of actual children. But that is a little bit of a side point. The point I want to make is that, where'd it go? Come back. Thought. Right. So when we hear that Night's King, he created others with Night's Queen, but he also bound his brothers with sorceries. So if there was some sort of a blood sacrifice, again, think of Bannon freezing to death to power the creation of an other. It could be that to create the others, we needed a blood sacrifice. Each time somebody's throat has to get cut, a green man or something like that. And so what we've got here is the idea that Night's King, well, he's doing shadow binding or something like that. He's binding his brothers with sorceries. Well, this sounds like he's killing the Night's Watch brothers and then binding their shadows with sorcery in order to create the others. So I think this is another clue about other creation. And so we see that in all of these scenes where there's a couple of clues about this. So everyone's afraid of Craster inside the keep. Like what it says, when Craster goes up the ladder to beat one of his wives, nobody will stop him. Nobody will interfere. And because Craster's a friend to the Night's Watch, Mormont keeps telling him, "Oh, we got to obey his rules. His roof, his rules." So right there, the Night's Watch are like compelled to obey the Night's King figure. And then the other part about that is that Craster's eating black sausages, and this is something really fun that I skipped over. It's kind of gross, but so remember, Bannon, when he burns, smells like bacon. And he's compared to Sir Piggy, Samwell Tarly. He's named Sir Piggy. Bacon comes from pigs, obviously. And then Ed makes the joke that if they have to burn Sam, he's really going to smell like bacon, right? So we've got this idea that the Night's Watch Rangers are like bacon. And then Craster's sitting there eating sausages, right? And sausages can come from different animals, but usually they come from pigs. And so they're black sausages, just like the Black Night's Watch brothers. And they're also frozen. Oh, a black sausage is a blood sausage. Yes, that's true. And of course, the Night's Watch Rangers are said to have black blood. So it's a black blood sausage. And he's chewing on it as Bannon is dying. So the idea that Night King figure, he's consuming the Night's Watch to create the others, whether it's by freezing them to death or by eating them visually with the sausage. So it's all symbolism that shows that Night's King is consuming the lives of Night's Watchmen in order to create others. And when I say Night's Watchmen, at the time they're killed, they might not be Night's Watchmen. They might be green men or just first men at that point, or the last hero's companions. And they only really become Night's Watch once they're resurrected. But for all intents and purposes, that's what's going on. He's consuming the sausages to show us the consumption of Bannon and the consumption of Night's Watch Rangers in order to create others. So that's a pretty cool clue. And there's even a theory that those sausages are actually the corpses of Night's Watch Rangers that Craster occasionally kills and then turns into sausage and in his larder. I also thought it was interesting that there's a ladder and a larder. The ladder goes upstairs. The larder is downstairs. I'm not sure if there's a pun there somewhere, but. All right, so Cleo's made it 30 minutes into the stream. 1 second. I'm going to go see if I can whisper her quiet and come back. Let me give you some art to look at, though, while I do that. This is Craster's Keep by Aranza Sesteo. So that means this is from the new calendar. Yes, that's the word, calendar. Boom, right back. All right, that's probably not going to work, but we'll see. Cool art, though, right? Yeah. Sesteo knocked it out of the park with all of her new art. Yeah, I do think there's some shadow binding going on because the others are white shadows and they're made in part with this physical sacrifice, whether it's the baby or like I'm proposing a slain Night's Watch Ranger. There's blood magic and there's shadows involved. So all the same ingredients as Melisandre's shadow baby creation. And they seem to be intentional parallels with Melisandre taking the life fires of Stannis, who again is an Azor High figure, to create the shadows. Just as Night's Queen took the life fires of Azor High, who became Night's King, to create the others. According to my, theory, that's obviously not canon. Apocalypsagon says, did you know that kinetic energy halts at sub-zero temperature? Yeah, it's like the... Yeah, I think I knew that. Do you think the others could make it cold enough to levitate or walk in midair? They might just walk over the wall. Well, they don't. They already kind of do that. They don't break the snow. They walk on top of the snow, which sort of implies them as somewhat insubstantial. And Tormund also describes them as a mist. So it seems like they can maybe turn into a mist and then turn back into physical entities, perhaps at will. And the Shadow Baby's kind of like that too. The Shadow Baby walks right through the grate. It's an insubstantial thing. It's a shadow, but it can make itself physical in order to kill Renly, right? Its shadow sword becomes you know, becomes physical and kills Renly. Carl says we're talking about superconductivity at cold temperature. Well, I have pointed out that the others have lightning and electricity symbolism, which makes sense because electricity is blue and lightning is blue and purple. So if you're wanting to show that the others have their own version of fiery power, you need stuff that's blue and purple. So lightning and electricity, that's the thing. So for example, the cold pond symbolism, when Varamir dies, it's like going into an icy pond. Same thing for Jon. And we've seen other creation symbolized by things coming out of icy ponds. It's always the shock of the cold. It's said a lot, the shock of the cold. And then the others move like lightning and strike like lightning. So it's electric. Boogie woogie. And let me go back. Was there one more super chat? Minty's getting her hair done today. She doesn't have, I don't have her in the dock. So guys, my other mods that are here, if you could help me not miss any super chats, I would appreciate that. I think I'm good. Cool. So a couple more notes on Craster's Keep. This is a super simple one, but I glossed over it. You know, they say, oh, Craster gives his sons to the wood, which means giving his sons to the others, who are called the White Walkers of the Wood. It's kind of a low-level clue, but I skipped over it. The woods and the White Walkers are interchangeable. Giving your sons to the wood is as good as giving them to the others. That's because the others come from the wood. They emerge from the shadow of the wood. So they're literally the avatars of the trees. Let's see here. And then there's also moon meteor symbols at Craster's Keep, as there always will be, and any place that symbolizes the home or creation of the others. And of course, that would be the others themselves. The Craster's wives speak of the others as the suns. They say the suns will be here soon. So this is the idea that meteors, when they explode in the sky, they light up the sky like a second sun. And the second sun symbolism is very often used for meteor symbols and figures. So there we go. They are the suns. The White Walkers literally have suns in their eyes. They have blue stars. And of course, a sun and a star is the same thing. So when they say the suns will be here soon, they're both the sons of Craster and they're a bunch of blue suns, a bunch of blue stars. Let's see. There is also a reference to Dawn, the sword Dawn, at Craster's Keep. And that's another thing we're going to find at all the places that symbolize the others is stuff about the sword Dawn, which was the original ice of House Stark. Check out Dawn is the original ice if you don't know what I'm talking about there. But it's really simple. Was the last hero of Stark? Probably. Was the last hero's Dragonsteel sword Dawn? Quite possibly. Which means a Stark last hero might have wielded Dawn against the others. And the Starks have a naming tradition going back to the Age of Heroes of naming their family swords ice. And Dawn is a big white sword that looks like a stick of ice. So where did the tradition come from? It came from a last hero wielding Dawn, because Dawn is the original ice. So check this paragraph out. The pale pink light of dawn sparkled on branch and leaf and stone. Every blade of grass was carved from emerald. Every drip of water turned to diamond. Flowers and mushrooms alike wore coats of glass. Even the mud puddles had a bright brown sheen. Through the shimmering greenery, the black tents of his brothers were encased in a fine glaze of ice. So there is magic beyond the wall after all. So the magic beyond the wall is the magic of ice, but it's the magic that comes at dawn. So it's like dawn ice magic. That's the magic north of the wall. And most notable are the black tents coated in ice, similar to the idea of frozen crows and frozen Night's Watch brothers. So Yeah, the second sons are definitely a media reference. Absolutely. 1 second, guys. I got to get the cockatoo. Yes, you've screamed into getting your way, girl. Congratulations. Taking advantage of the fact that I can't put up with your bird screaming. No. Yes, it's very cute. You're very cute, aren't you? All right. So now that we've reviewed all the symbols at Craster's Keep, let's hop on over to the Tower of Joy. So at first, it seems like a very opposite type of place, Craster's Keep and the Tower of Joy, but the symbolism is about the same. So Rhaegar and Lyanna are the Night's King and Queen figures here, as I discussed in Moons of Ice and Fire 3, Visenya Draconis. And actually, no, that was number 5, R plus L equals J, recipe for an ice dragon. That's what that was, yes. So Rhaegar wears night black armor. He is a dragon person, but all of his symbolism is midnight black, right? Then during after the year of the fall spring, there's this really nasty cold snap that happens. King's Landing freezes, the black water freezes. That's when Rhaegar and Lyanna run off. So it's during the winter. Think of the Night's King chasing and catching Night's Queen and taking her for his back to the Nightfort to be his queen. Rhaegar supposedly abducts Lyanna, chases her and catches her, and then they go back to the Tower of Joy. Lyanna, of course, has the crown of blue winter roses, which is a very obvious ice maiden, ice moon maiden symbol. The circular crown gives you the moon shape, and obviously they're blue winter roses, so heavily ice associated. And then we're going to see, of course, at the Tower of Joy, Lyanna is up in the tower. Rhaegar is gone, but ostensibly they conceived up in the tower. And before Rhaegar left, he would have bid goodbye to a pregnant Lyanna up in the tower. So Lyanna's up there. When Ned gets to the tower, of course, she's just recently given birth. She's in her bed of blood. And we have baby Jon Snow. So it compares very well to, obviously, Gilly giving birth to Monster up in the loft. And of course, Jon's name, Jon Snow, implies him as a child that should be given to the others. Check out the prince that was promised to the others video on my in my Jon series for more on that, of course. So Lyanna's up in the tower with baby Jon. Down below, we have men fighting, just as we did at Craster's Keep. We, of course, have the combat between Ned's 7, who are called Grey Wraiths, and the 3 Kingsguard. So it's kind of an inversion of Waymar's fight, which was 6 on 3. This is 7 on 3. The thing about the Waymar fight is that Waymar switches sides. He's on a side of 3, but then the side of 6 turns him into one of theirs when they turn him into an Ice White. And then he turns around and attacks one of the other Night's Watchmen. So we still have the 7 versus 3. It's just that Waymar is playing both sides. Here at the Tower of Joy, we've got 7 on 3. But it's flipped. So the White Walkers this time have 3, and Ned and his group are the 7. But so then we've got Ned is playing the last hero figure, just as, and actually let me put my notes back up on the screen, just as Sam was at Craster's Keep. So Sam rescues baby Monster and rescues the Night's Queen figure. Ned, of course, rescues baby Jon and takes Lyanna's bones. Lyanna doesn't live, but he takes Lyanna's bones from the Tower of Joy when everyone else got buried there. So that is a parallel. So we've got the combat below between the gray wraiths and the white knights, just as we had the combat below between the two groups of Night's Watchmen at Craster's. The Kingsguard this time are bound to Rhaegar's will by oaths. So remember, Night's King bound his brothers with strange sorceries. Well, here we've got Night's King Rhaegar binding the Kingsguard to do things that don't make any sense and to basically to die needlessly after the war is over. That's how strong the oath is. So they're bound to Rhaegar by oaths instead of strange sorceries. Let's see here. The tower, of course, would be the tree symbol or the ladder symbol. Ned's going to climb the tower to get to the Moon Maiden, as soon as he defeats the Kingsguard. And, of course, the last hero received help from the Children of the Forest to defeat the others, right? Well, Ned gets help from Howland Reed, the Crannog Man. That is the Children of the Forest echo in order to beat Arthur Dayne and the Kingsguard. Although we still don't know how that happened exactly, of course. So then, of course, the Ice Sword, the Dawn symbol is literally Dawn. Dawn is there. Plus, we have 3 Kingsguard who are called the White Swords. The very important symbol is Lyanna's rose petals. Her blue rose petals are blowing out of the tower window. And in Ned's dream, they're as blue as the eyes of death. So again, Lyanna's blue rose crown is supposed to make us think of ice magic and the others. So here, and when it's basically when the rose crown is a circle, it's like the moon. But what's happening in this tower as our Moon Maiden is dying, the roses are scattering and they're blowing out as a storm of blue rose petals. So imagine the moon, a circular moon, turning into a storm of bleeding stars. And of course, these blue rose petals are as blue as the eyes of death, which means the eyes of the others, which means blue stars. And they're against a blood-streaked sky. So we've got bleeding stars in the sky, and it's a storm of bleeding stars. So it's both a symbol of an ice storm of the long night. It's a symbol of the invasion of the others, because when the others invade, it's like an invasion of bleeding stars, blue stars. And then it's also like I said, the moon exploding as well. So that's a great compound symbol. And the other moon meteor symbols there would be dawn, of course. A white sword is like a white meteor, just as a black sword is like a black meteor. And dawn is made from a pale meteorite stone. And also Lyanna's bones. Lyanna is the Moon Maiden, so her bones are pieces of the moon. So just like the blue rose petals are blowing out in the sky, her bones are brought back from the did I forget to mute one? I'm trying to mute all my coughs, sorry. So the bones are another moon meteor symbol. They're pieces of Lyanna, just like the blue rose petals are pieces of her crown, right? Okay, so then there's also the bloody stones. The tower is pulled down. Ned pulls down the bloody stones of the tower. So the tower itself can symbolize, like I said, the tree, but also the moon itself, because that's where Lyanna's living. The tower's pulled down, and the blood on the stones would be basically the blood of everyone who's shed there. It's kind of a metaphorical commentary. But it speaks to the blood sacrifice is the point. All these people die, and baby Jon is born. Just like a bunch of people die at Craster's Keep. First, Bannon freezes to death, and then a whole bunch of rangers die, including one named Garth. And then here we've got a bunch of people dying as baby Jon is born. So very similar action as well as symbols. And then finally, I mentioned in the aborted stream from Sunday that when Ned wakes from the Tower of Joy sequence, it's like emerging from a frozen pond, because he's woken by his steward Vayen Pool, and House Pool's symbol is a blue pool on a field of white. Not only that, it's Lyanna's voice saying, Eddard, Eddard, that turns into Vayen Pool's voice, waking Ned from the dream, saying, Lord Eddard, Lord Eddard. So literally, the Ice Moon Maiden's voice turns into this man who symbolizes the blue pool. So as Ned's waking up, he's coming out of this blue pool. And then when he goes into the Tower of Joy dream, there's interesting symbolism, because the chapter before the Tower of Joy dream chapter, which starts with the dream, is the one where Ned fights Jaime in the streets of King's Landing. Okay. So Ned, basically what happens is he fights a battle. Ned's people are cut down, including Jory Cassell. Then Ned goes in, he's fed milk of the poppy. So think Weirwood paste to aid like a dying last hero. Then Ned wakes into the Tower of Joy dream, where he's ready to confront the others at the symbolic heart of winter and try to rescue the Night's Queen's baby. But he's fighting with gray wraiths. So he's fighting with dead men. And literally all the people that are with him are dead now, except for Howland Reed. So Ned fights a battle with living men, and his men are killed. That's like the last hero and his companions dying. Then Ned gets the milk of the poppy and enters a second fight with dead people, and they're gray wraiths. So these are your dead Night's Watchmen. They're taking on the others. Howland Reed is there to help, like the Children of the Forest. So, like I said, the chapter, the action before and after Ned's dream complement the symbolism and the journey of the last hero during that sequence. So what does this tell us about the others? It tells us that their creation is powered by the death of the last hero's companions. That's the point I want to make. It's said that the others, the last hero's companions, die when he is in the cold lands, chased by the others, questing for the children. And then later, after getting help from the children, he reemerges with dragon steel, organizes the first men of the Night's Watch, it says, and fights the others. Well, these are the Zombie Watch. And the help that the children gave was to help resurrect these people, in my opinion. So from here, we're going to talk about the White Sword Tower. But let me pause and see how we're doing here. So I'm just talking at you guys. Are we digesting this? Is this making sense? Do you have questions? Would you like me to expand upon anything? Yeah, Lyanna's Bed of Blood, another example of the blood magic sacrifice that powers the others. It doesn't tell us anything. It was Ned's fever dream. That's such a bad dismissal of that chapter. Not only does it tell us a lot about what happens in the actual Tower of Joy, because Ned's dream is going to be similar to the actual events, the symbolism in that chapter is off the charts and is, of course, put there intentionally by Martin. So the Tower of Joy is one of the most important passages in the book and tells us a lot of things. And you can tell because it's parallel to all these other important scenes, like the Nightfort and like Craster's Keep. And at the Nightfort, of course, we have a baby exchange where Bran is fed to the Weirwoods. He's given to the Weirwood face, and baby monster comes out of the Weirwood, right? So Night's Queen and her baby, her other baby, emerge from the Weirwood face at the Nightfort and come out. So it's like, do the others come from the Weirwoods? Well, yes, like they literally come out of the Weirwoods. It's pretty good stuff. Speaking of coming out of the Weirwoods, let's go ahead and go to the White Sword Tower. So White Sword Tower, you guys. And like I said, you can't ask questions. I know I'm giving a presentation here, but if you want to ask anything related to others and all that stuff, then feel free to do it. And of course, we don't know that Howland stuck Arthur in the back. That's a TV show canon. I favor the blow dart theory. Howland Reed in the bush, you know. It's like that. Arthur's in the calf. Oh, my leg. Maybe in the Achilles heel. Like Achilles. Yes, the evidence is here for all this madness. Of course it is, Adam. That's why that's what I'm doing. I mean, if you don't believe in my symbolism, then I don't know why you're hate watching my channel. But of course there's symbolism to support all this madness. I mean, that's literally what I'm fucking doing here, bro. But you know, you do you, I guess, you know. So the White Sword Tower, let's go to the White Sword Tower and do some more madness. So the White Sword Tower, just like is a tower, obviously. It's named after the White Swords, who are the Kingsguard that live in the tower. As I've demonstrated in Symbolism of the Others Kingsguard, the others, I mean, the Kingsguard are the best symbolic stand-ins for the others that we find anywhere. Their armor is always snow white, ice hard. Their cloaks are snowy. Their sigil is snow white. Everything about them is snow white. They're also ghostly in the moonlight. And of course, they're called white shadows and pale shadows many, many times, which is the number one symbolic description of the others. And the creation of the Kingsguard mirrors the creation of the others as well. Of course, Visenya, who is the Knight's Queen figure in the trio of Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys. Visenya is the one who creates the Kingsguard, just as Knight's Queen creates the others. And not only that, she takes Aegon's blood when she does it. Remember, the Dornish are threatening them, and the Dornish have just killed Rhaenys and Meraxes recently. And there's an assassination attempts, and basically Visenya takes out her sword and cuts Aegon across the cheek just to demonstrate that his guards are too slow, essentially. And so after taking his blood, if you will, as an argument to create the Kingsguard, she then creates the Kingsguard. So she's created these white knights. And this is a parallel, again, to Night's King giving his seed and soul to Night's Queen so that she can create the others. And, of course, Aegon is a dragon person, just as Night's King was actually Azor Ahai, a dragon person. So that all lines up. And when I say Visenya is the Night's Queen figure, you can, again, Visenya Draconis of Moons and Ice and Fire is where to find all the detailed evidence for that, of which there's like an hour's worth. But Vhagar has ice dragon symbolism. Visenya rides Vhagar, the ice dragon. Visenya, during the conquest, goes to a whole bunch of icy places like the Vale and spends a bunch of time there, while Rhaenys goes to, fiery places like Dorne. Let's see, what else do we have? The hills. Of course, we have 3 hills in King's Landing, representing the sun and the 2 moons. The Hill of Rhaenys, who I said is the Fire Moon Queen, has the Dragon Pit, which is a model of the moon that exploded that used to be a home of dragons. We went over that in the Dance of the Dragons, or Dragon Dances live stream, where we broke down all the dragon fights from Fire and Blood. And then on the Hill of Visenya, you have the marble white Sept of Baelor, which again the white marble is described as snow white. A lot of the white marbles veined with blue, which implies blue blood. We're going to see that at the Eyrie. And then the warrior sons live in the Sept of Baelor, and the warrior sons have mirror armor, just like the others' armor is reflective like a mirror. And their sigil, again, is a crystal sword on a field of black, and the others wield crystal swords at nighttime. So the warrior sons are perfect other mirrors, and they come out of the Sept of Baelor, which is made of white marble, on the Hill of Visenya, who's a Night's Queen figure. So the symbolism, it just stacks up, self-confirming, correlating, consistent. And that's how you get Visenya, the Night's Queen, creating the Kingsguard, who are like the others. Again, from the blood of Aegon. Now, as I mentioned on the creation of the other stream, there's a cool thing happening at the White Sword Tower where, just as babies are given to the others and then absorbed into the others' hive mind to somehow power other existence, same thing is true of the Kingsguard. They vacuum up children of the great houses of the kingdom and strip them of their names and titles and turn them into generic Kingsguard knights. And we're going to see that spelled out in the White Book. So let's do a little bit of reading. And we're going to read the beginning of a Jaime chapter when he comes to the White Sword Tower for the first time, which is a great chapter on its own. But I'm only going to read a few paragraphs here. Yeah, no, Adam, no, I understand. I'm not taking it the wrong way. It is a fever dream, but the fever dreams, as you know, we're doing symbolic analysis here. And the dreams, every dream is important. Absolutely. No, there aren't fake outs. All the dreams are important in the terms of symbolism. They're all showing us important things for symbolism. The dreams are fake outs in the sense that people trying to interpret the dreams are fallible and frequently come to the wrong conclusion. And Melisandre acknowledges that. She says, we don't know if we're seeing things that may happen or things that will happen, and we don't know exactly what they mean. She sees fake Arya on the horse and thinks it's real Arya on the horse. Close, but not quite, right? So Martin does love to fake people out with prophecy and dreams, but only with misinterpretation. He doesn't give you red herring dreams that just mean nothing. The prophecies will all come true in some way. They're just not going to be maybe the way that people expect. And George likes to play with those expectations, show people deceiving themselves and things like that. So I get where you're coming from. But when we talk about the Tower of Joy dream, all the symbolism in there is just as valid to interpret as the symbolism in any other scene in the story. Now, if we're trying to figure out what actually happened at the Tower of Joy, of course, it is a fever dream. It's not, I mean, it's a dream, period. It's not necessarily a Weirwood Net replay of exactly what happened. So, and there's obviously some symbolic language. It could be that events that happen slightly apart in time are being combined. Like, when did Lyanna scream out to Eddard? Was it during the fight? Was it right after the fight? It doesn't really matter. But what the scene is showing us is the basics of it. There's a confrontation. We're supposed to ponder the mystery of the Kingsguard sticking to their vows long after it makes any sense, which is all spelling out the importance of Baby John and RLJ and stuff like that. But in any case, we're talking symbolism, and the dreams are where you find a lot of the best symbolism. And we're going to talk about 2 more dreams today, in fact, too. So. And then, of course, yes, there's also the unreliable narrator. Everything that we get in anyone's chapter is always colored by the impressions and the thoughts of the person having the monologue or the dream. So we're on the same page there. So this is Jaime 8 from A Storm of Swords. And this is the opening of the chapter. It says, a white book sat on a white table in a white room. The room was round, its walls of whitewashed stone hung with white woolen tapestries. It formed the first floor of the White Sword Tower, a slender structure of 4 stories built into an angle of the castle wall overlooking the bay. The undercroft held arms and armor. The second and third floors, the small, spare sleeping cells of the 6 brothers of the Kingsguard. One of those cells had been his for 18 years, but this morning he had moved his things to the topmost floor, which was given over entirely to the Lord Commander's apartments. Those rooms were spare as well, though spacious, and they were above the outer walls, which meant he would have a view of the sea. I will like that, he thought, the view and all the rest. As pale as the room, Jaime sat by the book in his Kingsguard whites, waiting for his sworn brothers. Guys, I need to do a cobweb clearing here, which means a 420 break. Let me give you a little bit of art, and I will be right back. Let me see, Jaime. I've got any good Jaime art. I definitely have good Jaime art. I need one in white, though. Here we go. Oh, this is good. This is Jason Engel. There are no men like me. This is a fine piece of Jaime art. "60 seconds. Do, 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 do. Sing the song to yourselves in your head. Oh, I didn't mute it. Sorry, you had to listen to that. Woo! Oh, Lordy. Where's my smoking glasses? Only like to do that once or twice a stream, but it does sort of... yeah. Woo, no, I'm not dying. I just took a massive bong rip. It sort of clears out the cobwebs. You can only do it once or twice a stream, but see, I sound better already. And now I've got the smoking glasses on. So, yep. Woo. Yeah, it's a stoner cough. That's what that is. So, the green cough. I like that. That's good. A chimney sweep. All right. So, totally. Me, Figaro. All right. So we're in the White Sword Tower. He's got a view of the sea. As pale as the room, Jamie sat by the book in his King's Guard whites, waiting for his sworn brothers. A long sword hung from his hip, from the wrong hip. And he goes on to think about how it's clumsy and unnatural. It's on his other shoulder. And he doesn't, and it goes along with this entire monologue of him feeling like a stranger and he's not his old self. And that's what's important. It says, his clothing fit badly as well. He had donned the winter raiment of the King's Guard, a tunic and breeches of bleached white wool and heavy white cloak, but it all seemed to hang loose on him. So, as if the King's Guard don't have enough White Walker symbolism already, now they're donning the winter raiment, which includes bleached wool. And of course, we know that the sheep and the white wool is a big others symbol. Craster sacrifices the sheep to the others in place of his sons. When Jon goes north of the wall, he trades in his black cloak for the white sheepskin. So wolf and sheep's clothing. And of course, joining the wildlings is similar to joining the others. So the sheep symbolism is other symbolism, and the winter raiment of the King's Guard is white sheep wool, of course. Then it says, no one recognized him at the trial. He's a stranger in his own house. So I'm not sure. I don't want to talk too much about Jamie here. I'm not sure if he's like the good other last hero who used to be a part of the others and then switched, or if he's supposed to be the Night's King figure. I think that's what it is, where he's become the leader of the others, but he used to be someone different. I think that's what's going on. But I want to focus more on the tower itself. So the room is round because the tower is round. So it's a slender, round, white tower. So it's already very tree-like, right? But then we see that the white stone is actually whitewashed stone. And this gets back to a piece of Yggdrasil lore that I have not spoken about before. Yggdrasil is made white by the Norns who wash it every day. They take this white wash and they wash the tree with it, and that is why it is white. So George has picked up on this, and there's actually a lot of whitewashing symbolism. It's an entire line of symbolism that I haven't even cracked open. But it makes sense because underneath the others is something else, right? The others, underneath there is a dead green man, and underneath Night's King is Azor High. So there's this kind of whitewashing, changing your identity, changing your reputation, and also washing out the personality. When people join a hive mind, they lose their individuality. And we're giving all these Craster babies to the others. And then they just join the other. Because remember, the others are twins. They don't have individual identity. We see that in the prologue. It's both literal and a thematic, symbolic thing. They're faceless. They're twins to the first. They're nameless. They're the Watchers. They are the the original Green Seer hive mind. Because remember, when the Green Seers die, they form a hive mind inside the Weirwood net. Well, the first hive mind was the original Green Men. That's what got exiled and became the others. So all of the others, they are an exiled hive mind. That is why they are twins to the first. So when individuals are fed to the others, they lose their individuality. And that is part of this whitewashing of the White Knights as well. And now we see I'm going to skip over the table and read this bit here about the book, the white book. Okay, so check this out. It's called the Book of Brothers. And it says it's massive. It's 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, or 1.5 feet wide, 1,000 pages thick, fine white vellum, bound between covers of bleached white leather with gold hinges and fastenings. So if you want to parse all that out, bound between covers of bleached leather. Leather is skin. So we've got, again, whitened skin, whitewashed skin. You think of skin changing, in the word bound, also shadow binding. So this is a book of people who have been shadow bound to the others, essentially. That is how I'm interpreting that. And that makes perfect sense. It says, within the white book was the history of the Kingsguard. I'm sorry, I just pronounced my own theory making perfect sense. What I mean is it makes sense. It's consistent with all the other stuff that we've been looking at, is what I mean. So within the white book was a history of the Kingsguard. Every knight who'd ever served had a page to record his name and deeds for all time. On the top left-hand corner of each page was drawn the shield the man had carried at the time he was chosen, inked in rich colors. Down in the bottom right corner was the shield of the Kingsguard, snow white, empty, pure. So again, remember, I'm describing the Weirwoods as being emptied out. The hive mind that's in there is emptied out by Azor High's invasion. It's exiled and becomes the others. Oh, vellum is also skin, someone points out. Thank you. Shadowbound 2, Return of the Others. Now, it's good, Leon. You're hired. You're on the marketing team. Yeah, and of course, a song for Laya. The hive mind thing is something George has written about many times. So we've all identified it as popping up in A Song of Ice and Fire with both the others and the Greenseers. And as I just said, that is because the others are exiled Greenseers. That's the whole point. So yes, all of Craster's sons are brothers, exactly. And all of the White Walkers are brothers. They are a brotherhood, just like the Black Brothers. So you've got the White Others and the Black Brothers, but they're all brotherhoods because they're all made up of men who can't have children on their own. The Night's Watch aren't allowed to have children. Whites, of course, can't have children, as far as we know. And the others need children in order to perpetuate their existence. So, and then when we look at the book here, we see that in the upper corner, we have the individuality, the shields and the houses that these children, because remember, when people join the Kingsguard, they're frequently very young, but they're basically the sons of the great houses. They're given to the Kingsguard. Their individuality is emptied out, and they become snow white, pure, and empty. And let's see. The upper shields were all different. The lower shields were all the same. In the space between were written the facts of each man's life and service. The heraldic drawings and illuminations were done by Septon. So you see that their life story goes down the page. It starts off with their individuality and their young life. And by the time they die, they get down to that snowy Kingsguard shield. Yeah, Jamie was 15. Arthur Dane was 17. Loris is like 17, I believe. So yeah, and Jamie's kind of the important one here. So he's definitely, we're meant to see Jamie as a child given to the others. Absolutely. And then, of course, right, the book is an obvious Weirwood symbol since Weirwoods have history inside them, and libraries and books are common Weirwood symbols because of that very thing. So now going back, the best Weirwood symbol in the White Sword Tower is made of Weirwood. He looked about the round room once more. White wool hangings covered the walls, and there was a white shield on 2 crossed longswords mounted above the hearth. The chair behind the table was old black oak, with cushions of blanched cowhide, the leather worn thin. Worn by the bony arse of Barristan the Bold and Sir Gerald Hightower before him. By Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, by Sir Ryan Redwine and the Demon of Derry, by Sir Duncan the Tall and the Pale Griffin Ellen Connington. How could the Kingslayer belong in such exalted company? Yet here he was. The table itself was old Weirwood, pale as bone, carved in the shape of a huge shield supported by 3 white stallions. By tradition, the Lord Commander sat at the top of the shield and the brothers 3 to a side on the rare occasions when all 7 were assembled. And then it goes on to describe the book. So, white, weirwood horses couldn't drag me away. Yeah, we've got the Weirwood Shield. So it's a great symbol. Not only is it made of weirwood and dead weirwood, I want to point out, all of the Ice Moon places have dead weirwood. Like at the Eyrie, the weirwood won't grow in the Godswood, and they have weirwood thrones, which greenseers sit in living weirwood thrones, but these are dead. They're made of carved wood. Similar thing here. We see this this table made of cut weirwood, so it's dead. Now it's a shield, which of course the Kingsguard are a protectionary force. This is what's really interesting because it implies the others are a protectionary force. And indeed, what would the others be protecting? The weirwoods. That's the whole point of the others being kind of like the Sidhe or like elves. They're defending their sacred wood, and they've been exiled from their original home, and so now they're in this haunted forest. And so they are both they're protecting the haunted forest, but they also might want to take back their home, which would be more like an invasion. Of course. Let me check on. Oh man. Death mute. How long was that? It looks like about a 60-second mute. We didn't miss anything interesting. I was just sort of tooling through my PayPals. I got one that is off topic, but was asking for a deep dive on Tyrion symbolism. And Adam Morlock, we missed the whole part where he said I was right. Well played, sir. Well played, sir. So no, what I was saying is there was a super chat asking for a Tyrion deep dive, saying they enjoyed the Vedic Dany mythology deep dive. Am I going to do that on Tyrion? Mentioning the Sun Wukong parallels. So I already did this, but it's in an old podcast, so that's why you may not have found it. It's the first series, Bloodstone Compendium number 5. It's called Tyrion Targaryen, and I do address the possibility that he's a Targaryen in there, but I also do all the Sun Wukong symbolism and some other stuff about Tyrion. So that's the one to check out. It's exactly what you're looking for. And by the way, that PayPal was from Christopher. So there you go, Christopher. Bloodstone Compendium number 5. And by the way, guys, you can always find the old stuff by checking on the playlist tab on the YouTube page and scroll down. You'll find all the compendiums in a playlist. They each have their own playlist. All right, so back to this shield, right? So we've got this Weirwood Shield. Like I said, it's a dead Weirwood symbol, but it's first of all, it's helping us see that this white tower of bleached stone, a round tower, is itself a Weirwood symbol. And therefore, it makes sense to see the others, the Kingsguard, living in the Weirwood and then coming out of the Weirwood. So it's a very good depiction of just the basic thing of what I'm saying. The others come from the Weirwood. That's where they live. That's their home. They seem to now live in a frozen side of the Weirwood net, if you will, but they've been exiled from their original place that they were living. And so that's what we're seeing here. And then additionally, we've got the The wooden table is supported by 3 horses, but they're also white Weirwood horses. This is just a nod to Yggdrasil as Odin's horse. And I think I've said Yggdrasil 2 different ways on the stream. Pardon me. I rolled the R both times, but it is Yggdrasil, not Yggdrasil. So I think I screwed up the first time. Yggdrasil literally means Odin's horse because it's an old shamanic metaphor. The shamans ride the shamanic horse into the astral realm. Sometimes it's the drumming of the drums that's used to help the shaman enter their sort of altered state. It's regarded as the hoofbeats of an invisible horse. And so this created this metaphor that we find with people all over Europe and Asia, which is where the word shaman comes from, the Tungus people of northern Russia. And so into Yggdrasil, Odin has 2 astral projection horses, basically. Yggdrasil is called Odin's horse because he uses Yggdrasil to access the 9 realms. But he also rides an 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, into the 9 realms as well. So either way, he's riding a magic horse. So that's why we see the Weirwood Shield supported by white horses. So it's just a whole big collection of Weirwood symbols in this tower that the other like Kingsguard live in. Now there's even a couple more detailed parallels to the places that we just looked at. Both the Tower of Joy and Craster's Keep. Remember how there's always fighting below, right? The other babies are born at the top level, and that's where the Kingsguard live, and that's where the White Book is and all that. But down below, we've got the training yards. And when Jamie walks by, he thinks, that's for the whole men. I can't do that anymore because I'm not a whole man. So it's kind of like the living are fighting down below while these sort of emaciated white knights live up above. And there's also another bit because Jamie, he recalls the fight between Arthur Dane and the Smiling Knight, which I will read to you. And this is very much a like black brother versus a white other kind of thing. Although there might be something that's flipped here, but let me just read this to you. This is a great passage just on its own anyway. And this is after, so Jamie reads the short summary of his life, and then he says, summed up like that, his life seemed a rather scant and mingy thing. Sir Barristan could have recorded a few of his other tourney victories at least, and Sir Gerald might have written a few more words about the deeds he performed when Sir Arthur Dane broke the Kingswood Brotherhood. He had saved Lord Sumner's life, as Big Belly Ben was about to smash his head in, though the outlaw had escaped him. And he'd held his own against the Smiling Knight, though it was Sir Arthur who slew him. What a fight that was, and what a foe. The Smiling Knight was a madman, cruelty and chivalry all jumbled together, but he did not know the meaning of fear. And of course, that's a trademark Night King line. The Night King didn't know the meaning of fear. All men must know fear, right? So the Smiling Knight seems to be our Night King figure. The Smiling Knight makes you think of a smiling crescent moon, the Cheshire Cat moon, which is up in the sky at night. And the Night's King frequently is associated with the moon. So we've got the Smiling Knight, and he knows no fear, like I said. And he's fighting Arthur Dane. So it says, the outlaw's long sword had so many notches by the end that Sir Arthur had stopped to let him fetch a new one. It's that white sword of yours I want, the robber knight told him as they resumed, though he was bleeding from a dozen wounds by then. Then you shall have it, sir, the sword of the morning replied, and made an end of it. So we've got the sword of the morning all in white, taking on the Smiling Knight, who's a robber knight. And the Smiling Knight has a dozen wounds, which makes you think of the last hero's dozen. So the thing here is that I can't tell who is who. The Smiling Knight kind of seems like Night's King, but he's got a dozen wounds, which usually is a last hero thing. He's a member of the Kingswood Brotherhood. That sounds like the others, because the others come from the wood. So perhaps Sword of the Morning, even though he is member of the Kingsguard, what's emphasized here is the dawn and the Sword of the Morning part. Like his white armor isn't described, but they do talk about his sword. So it seems like maybe Arthur is a last hero figure, symbolizing the Stark who wielded Dawn against the Night's King. And of course, the Night's King and the others come from the wood. This is the Kingswood Brotherhood. So that's my best interpretation. But sometimes Martin likes to do the inverted parallels where things are sort of swapped around. But the point is that it's this fight. It's this black versus white fight. Smiling Knight, who's dishonorable, versus Arthur Dane, who's very honorable. It's a fight that has Dawn involved. So it's some sort of Night's Watch versus the others battle symbolism that's meant to complement the White Sword Tower, because it's inserted right into Jamie's scene here in the Sword Tower. So there you go. That is the White Sword Tower. Let me go back to my notes. I think there might be one other thing about it. Oh, yes. So remember, the one thing that isn't white at the White Sword Tower is that chair, right? The Lord Commander of the Kingsguard sits in a black oak chair. Now, the thing about black wood is that black wood is a symbol of the corruption of the Weirwoods. And the main place that we find this is with the Undying and the Shade of the Evening trees. I've talked about this before, so I'll just summarize really quick. The Undying are parallels to the others. Hey! How about a warning or something? Jeez. Man. Startles me. Sorry, guys. Anyways. Completely forgot where I was. Oh, the black oak chair. So, the House of the Undying. We've got these cold blue shadows, and they're gathered around a cold blue heart. So this seems like a pretty easy parallel to the others, which are cold shadows that are from the heart of winter. And the Undying also want to drain Dany's fire and life, which kind of makes sense because the others want to extinguish all warm-blooded life. And then outside the Shade of the Evening, or outside of the House of the Undying, of course, is the Shade of the Evening trees, are the Shade of the Evening trees. Everybody has identified that they are like inverted parallels to the Weirwoods. Black bark, blue leaves instead of white bark and red leaves. Now they both produce psychotropic substances, the Shade of the Evening and the Weirwood paste. And the descriptions of consuming those two substances are very comparable. There's some ice and fire differences, but they're pretty similar. And Dany and Bran's experiences on those psychedelics are also highly comparable. Sorry if I gave everyone a heart attack by yelling. Cleo gives me a heart attack when she screams in my ear like that. So apologies. Just passing on the misery. So the Shade of the Evening trees and the others go together. And this, to me, the Shade of the Evening trees, highly corrupted. That's what they look like. And the Undying, everything is about corruption in that whole scene. And so, to me, it seems like the message here is that the Shade of the Evening trees symbolize what has happened to the Weirwoods. They've been corrupted because Azor Ahai invaded them. Somebody else also pointed out once that, like, when wood is done being burnt, it looks kind of black and blue. You know, if you can picture like the side of a house that's burned down, the rubble kind of looks black and blue and gray, right? So the Weirwoods look like they're on fire, which I've said is a depiction of Azor Ahai invading them and setting them on fire, if you will. But the shade trees kind of look like what happens after the tree is burnt and it cools down, and then you have this blackened tree. So I think that's complementary ideas, right? So, for example, then if you go over to House Blackwood, they have a giant weirwood tree that's been poisoned, right? It's literally been poisoned by House Bracken, who has all the dragon symbolism and the fiery horse symbolism of their sigil and bitter steel sigil. So you've got this idea that the House of the Fiery Dragon Horse has poisoned the Weirwood. And now that belongs to House Blackwood. So that's another clue that Blackwood we're supposed to equate with poisoned or corrupted Weirwood. All right. So inside the White Sword Tower, which is like a frozen Weirwood tree, we find the dead white Weirwood table and also the black oak chair. So the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard is basically sitting in a wooden throne, just like the Green Seers sit in wooden thrones, but it's a black wooden throne, which shows you, again, corrupted Weirwood symbolism. And it's a good parallel to the House of the Undying Shade Trees. And then from underneath the black chair is where he pulls Oathkeeper and gives Oathkeeper to Brienne, who would be the last hero figure. And I think Oathkeeper might represent a baby here. Sometimes the bloody swords represent babies, especially when they're cradled and swaddled. and people obviously represent swords quite often. Brienne is definitely the last hero. And she's essentially also a good other figure, very comparable to Jon Snow. And so she visits the White Sword Tower and gets that black sword and leaves. Yeah, Pod holds it like a baby. That's right. When he brings it to Brienne. That's exactly right. And of course, I've talked in the past about something called the dragon locked in ice symbolism. We always find one little black dragon symbol inside the ice realm, which is essentially basically a symbol of Night's King being Azor High and taking his dragon fieriness, his fiery dragon seed and soul, giving it to Night's Queen and having it frozen, and he himself being frozen. So so yeah, good. Minty, fresh from the hairstylist, says, I wonder why the door to the House of Black and White is ebony and not shade of the evening wood. Or does Arya just not know about that type of tree? So both are possible. It could be shade of the evening wood, but even if it's not, it's black wood. And that's what I'm saying, is that black wood is a symbol of corrupted weirwoods, which includes the shade trees, but also the ironwood trees and the ebony trees as well. So those are all symbolically the same. I don't know if she's looking at shade wood and thinking it's ebony. That could be. But if you notice, there's a black-white dichotomy to the weirwoods everywhere we go. Okay, so the black gate is actually the white weirwood face that's a door. So it's a white door that's called the Black Gate because the Black brothers go through there. But it gives you the black and white symbolism. That's because both the others and the Black brothers are tied to the weirwoods, and they represent a bifurcation of these sacrificed people, as I have been sort of building through this stream in the last one. Then we're going to go over to the Eyrie. We're going to look at the moon door. You open the moon door, and it's a yawning black void. And then, of course, the doors on the House of Black and White are half black and half white, and they are merged, flip-flopped. So you have the moon face is half, the black half's on the white door, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also black chairs with white moon faces and white chairs with black moon faces, because there are two moons and because both the others and the brothers are tied to the weirwoods. And just to review the brothers side of that, the Black brothers, of course, the original Black brothers would have all been first men who worshiped the weirwoods and would have said their vows in the Weirwood Grove of Nine, just like Jon did, which means the original Night's Watch swears their vows, everything that they promise, they're promising to the weirwoods and the Green Seers. And that makes sense because we're told the Children of the Forest helped the last hero organize the first Night's Watch to battle the others. And we are also told the Children of the Forest aid the Night's Watch by giving them dragon glass. So it's all of a piece. And then we see Bloodraven, a Night's Watchman who's now become a Green Seer, working with the children. So the Children of the Forest work with the Night's Watch, hand in glove. And according to my theory about Night's Watch zombies, that probably has something to do with Green Seer magic as well. Cold Hands, for example, seems to be a skin changer. He's some sort of Night's Watch zombie. Jon is also a skin changer. He's going to be a Night's Watch zombie. It could be that it requires a skin changer to make a Night's Watch zombie, because skin changers have the animals to act as a soul jar, essentially, as I've explained. when they die, they go into their animal. They do begin to merge with the animal over time, but if you can get the spirit out quick enough, then you're getting more of the spirit back than, say, with Beric, who doesn't have an animal to preserve any part of his spirit. And that's why only a shadow of Beric can be called back. So that is, yeah, that's pretty much the White Sword Tower there. My favorite part of that was the White Book and how you can see that action of absorbing individuality and turning it into this snowy hive mind of others. And then the fact they come out of this tree tower is just kind of great for our purposes here. So hope you're with me. It's time to go to the Eyrie now. Actually, we got to read Bran's Dream first. Then we can go to the Eyrie. Blame it on the goose. Blame it on the Henny. All right. I'm actually going to grab a drink real quick. One second. That wasn't 1 second, but it was like 5 seconds. It's pretty quick. Yes, a light afternoon snack. No, it's another trick to clear the cobwebs is the Hennessy. Any kind of cognac. It's an old singer's trick. Yeah, make all the jokes you want. My last name is Beers. That's my real last name. My real last name isn't Lightbringer. It's Beers. And I hardly drink at all. So take your shots. So that's what tea is, Carl Karsnark. Yeah. You think I'm drinking tea? It's if this was all Hennessy, I'd be like, I'd be tipsy as hell by now. And please click the like button, fellas, if you can. Oh, at the Nightfort, I mentioned the 79 Sentinels, of course. There is an icy stairway at the Nightfort, and this sounds like a total nightmare. The stairs are carved into the ice, but of course, as it melts, they get rounded back off. And Mira, sorry, I forgot to mute that one. Mira actually, when they get to the Nightfort, she manages to ascend the entire wall on these rounded icy steps. And I just like, I got such a heart attack just reading that. Like, can you imagine? Even if they were straight as hell, like it's ice, it's slippery, and you're like walking up these icy steps, but they're rounded. Like, oh my God, dude. I'd rather try to climb it the way that John did with ropes than to try to walk up the stairs like that. Oh my God. So, yeah, Mira's awesome though. She's got special Cranogman balance and dexterity, right? Yeah, one slip and it's game over. Of course, she probably using her frog spear or other, knife implements to sort of help her there. But that's tough. Yeah, I'm drinking Gatorade, not vitamin water. They've been out of vitamin water for like 3 days at both the corner store and the grocery store. Yeah, I should also go back to the lozenge too. Those are actually the most helpful thing out of anything is the lozenge. So, all right. So, real quick, we're gonna do Bran's Dream. It's really only the last paragraph of Bran's Dream. As you know, Bran's Dream, when he's in the coma, he has a recurring dream, and it's 2 parts. One part is he's climbing the tower from which he fell, and the other part is that he's just dreaming of falling all the time, right? So we've got it's the falling that's important. The climbing is important because, of course, as we've talked about many times, Winterfell itself represents the Weirwood. It's described as a great stone tree, and only Bran knows its secrets because he climbs the towers. And there's a bunch of other language that parallels his climbing the Weirwood tree to become a green seer. Tons of green seer foreshadowing. We've gone over this many times, so I don't need to belabor the point, to use my favorite saying. He dreams about climbing the tree. One of the cool things about it is that in the dream, the tower is much taller. It goes all the way into the sky till he's like miles and miles above the ground. So it really gives you the idea that it's an astral projection tree that connects you to the heavens, that spans time and space, right? So just a cool little bit. But the important thing is the falling, right? The climax of his dream when he wakes up is when he decides to fly instead of fall. And the whole time during this last part of the dream, he's falling and the three-eyed crow is talking to him, is telling him, flap your wings. Are you sure you don't have wings? Maybe you do. And what happens if you fall? You won't wake up. You might actually die. And then we get this bit, and it says, Bran looked at the crow on his shoulder, and the crow looked back. It had 3 eyes, and the third eye was full of a terrible knowledge. Bran looked down. There was nothing below him now but snow and cold and death, a frozen wasteland where jagged blue-white spires of ice waited to embrace him. They flew up at him like spears. He saw the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled upon their points. He was desperately afraid. So this is another one of those very important, symbolically packed passages here. And the first thing to notice is the other dreamers, right? So Bran is falling, and he's at risk of falling to the same fate as these other dreamers, being impaled on the ice spires. But instead he flies. And we know that flying is a symbol of using the Weirwood net, right? The Green Seers fly because they do astral projection. Their spirits fly throughout the galaxy, throughout time and space, throughout history, throughout Westeros, all that stuff, right? So that's what flying is. But what is falling? So this is not my original idea. It did occur to me originally, but other people had thought of it too. Those other dreamers represent the others. They represent the others as some sort of fallen Green Seers. Green Seers who, instead of flying, fell. Now, originally I was thinking more like, oh, these are sinful, wicked Green Seers. But it could be more think of falling as a victim, like someone who's pushed out a window or pushed out of a tree and falls out of the tree. Because that's what we're going to see at the Moon Door, is people falling out of the Weirwood Door. Okay? So here we have other dreamers who fell to their death. Okay? Now, being impaled is interesting. Impalement is usually a transformation symbol. Like Nissa is impaled by Lightbringer and she's burned. And that's how the blood magic happens. The Green Seers are impaled by the roots. They run through their bodies. And that's how they access the magic. So impalement speaks of self-sacrifice, being penetrated by magic, sort of transforming your body, death transformation, all that stuff. So again, we have these other dreamers impaled by ice spires. So they've become infected with ice, if you will. They become stabbed with ice, however you want to say it. When Azor Ahai stabs people with his sword, they burn up. So these people have been frozen. Okay. And we saw Waymar got stabbed with the other swords. That didn't freeze him. But of course, he did then get whited and rise, now animated by ice magic. So similar idea. Also, I have wondered whether when Arthur Dayne knights Jaime, Jaime bleeds and he talks about blood being the seal of our devotion. So this is kind of another thing, like Dawn represents an ice sword, symbolism wise anyway. And so you're giving blood to this ice sword and then joining the others' brotherhood. So it's not sure what's going on there, but sort of like a consecration, something like that. And it sort of parallels the idea of Azor Ahai burning people with his sword, or again, using Lightbringer to draw the blood magic out of Nissa, the blood life vitality to use for the blood magic. So that's the important thing from this Bran dream, is that the other dreamers that fall instead of fly seem to be a clue about the others being Green Seers who have fallen. And this perfectly sets up the Eyrie. So, as I've mentioned many times, the Weirwood tree and the moon are parallel symbols. The black gate glows like milk in moonlight. I just mentioned the House of Black and White, which has a moon face made of half weirwood and half ebony. The others only come out in the moonlight. Their swords are alive with moonlight. So they're very much like moon power people, if you will. I hear PayPal dingles. Are people sending me PayPals? Yes, they are. Thank you, people. Been waiting. Cameron says, glad to hear you're back on your feet. Slightly off topic. Let's see. No, it isn't. On the topic of Exile of the Others and how Azor Ahai exiled them, what do you think he was hoping to get out of it, do you think? If he was already a god emperor of the Great Empire of the Dawn, what fire of the gods do you speculate the Weirwood Net offered him? So the Weirwood Net seems to be, it could be the power of eternal life, because the Undying are trying to live forever, and they model the others. And eternal life is usually what humans who want to be gods are after. But the Weirwood Net also gives you sort of mastery over time and space, gives you all knowledge as well as magical powers. So take your pick there as far as what he was going after. But the question is, the question here is, did Azor Ahai intend to create the others, or was this like a countermeasure to his invasion? I think it's more the second, where like, you know, Azor Ahai is invading the Weirwood Net, and he's preying on the Green Seers, right? He's stealing their home, but those Green Seers that get kicked out and cast aside, well, they turn into these warriors, perhaps with the help of Night Queen. So it seems like Night's Queen is kind of playing Azor Ahai, or tricking Azor Ahai, or trapping him. And it's like, oh, you want to invade the Weirwood Net, huh? Well, I'm going to trap you in here, steal your magic, and create the others who can then fight against perhaps the rest of Azor Ahai's dragon army, right? Because evil Azor Ahai is the Bloodstone Emperor. He's invading Westeros during the Long Night. He probably has dragons. He definitely has an army. And this dovetails with the stories of the first men cutting down the Weirwoods and killing the children of the forest. I think these are just a little bit of mixed up history here. So the Great Empire of the Dawn should definitely be seen as either part of that story or similar to the first men in that way. So the others would then be created to sort of counteract the original force of Azor Ahai. But Azor Ahai himself has become the father of the others. So he's kind of been tricked and trapped. And that's a little bit like Jaime, where he was tricked into joining the Kingsguard, and now he's like set against his father, right? Something like that. All right, so yeah, follow Minty on Twitter. She's very entertaining, and she's just joined Twitter and needs more Twitter buddies. Hi, Cleo. Hi, good girl. So when we go to the Eyrie, we're going to see lots of Weirwood and moon symbolism. House Aaron, of course, they have a moon in their sigil. Their sigil is blue and white, or blue and cream, if you will. So off-white. And cream ties into milk symbolism, which is more moon talk. You know, the moon has tons of milk and butter symbolism, both in the real world and in A Song of Ice and Fire. We're not talking about moon boobs today. That was on Twitter. We'll get there someday. So House Aaron has an other colored banner with a moon in their sigil. See, the moon door, of course, is made of weirwood, and a moon maiden, Lysa Tully, gets pushed out of the moon door. But in general, if the Eyrie represents the moon, people falling out of the Eyrie would be moon meteors, right? Things falling out of the moon. And that's a bunch of what happens. Then we've got, of course, at the bottom of the Giant's Lance Mountain that the Eyrie is on, we find the gates of the moon. And of course, there are the mountains of the moon surrounding the Vale. So then there's Sir Hugh of the Vale, who enters the hands tourney, and he's got crescent moons all over his clothing, which get turned bloody, of course. And then Lysa likes to wear moonstones and sapphires, which gives you the combination of sapphires are like blue stars, moonstones are like whitish blue, milky looking stones. So basically, it's like a moon with moonstones and sapphires give you the combination of ice moon and icy stars, or icy moon meteors, if you prefer. So that's all pretty straightforward. There's also a crescent-shaped castle below the Eyrie, but we're going to talk about that in a second. And there's a bloody gate. Yes, there's bloody gate would be the place where babies are born from, the place where the bed of blood comes from. Vagina. That's the bloody gate. It's also the Weirwood mouth, which is where babies are given and come from. Do with that symbolism what you will. Shout out to Bilquis. So here's a quote. It says, "The sky cells on the lower level made the castle," that's the Eyrie, "look something like a honeycomb from below. A honeycomb made of ice," Elaine thought. "A castle made of snow." She could hear the wind whistling round the bucket. So it's a snow castle that's draped in moon symbolism. It's at the top of a mountain, the mountain being similar to a tower. But of course, the Eyrie has white towers as well. The Eyrie is like just unbelievable for symbolism. So it says, when her uncle saw that, that's Uncle Brendan Blackfish Tully. This is a Catelyn and Blackfish scene. When her uncle saw that she had stopped, he moved his saw that she had stopped. He moved his horse closer and pointed. "It's there beside Alyssa's tears. All you can see from here is a flash of white every now and then, if you look hard and the sun hits the walls just right." 7 towers, Ned had told her, like white daggers thrust into the belly of the sky, so high you can stand on the parapets and look down on the clouds. So I just told you the Eyrie represents the moon, and when you're at the Eyrie, you look down on the clouds, just as though you were standing on the moon. That's pretty cool. Then it says, you can see it when the sun hits the walls just right. So that's kind of like the moon drinking the fire of the sun. It's neither here nor there. The main thing is the towers and the daggers. So there's 7 towers. They're white towers. So this is a shout out to, again, the White Sword Tower and the idea of a white tree that's like a tower. And these 7 towers are like daggers. So again, White Sword Tower, White Dagger Tower. It's very, very similar. Then over at White Harbor, where we have things like the Sept of the Snows and lots of icy white marble, we've also got a river called the White Knife. And the White Knife, of course, freezes hard when Brandon Ice Eyes comes to kill the slavers in the Godswood and offer them to the trees. So Brandon Ice Eyes kind of sounds like the Night's King. And when he comes, the White Knife freezes solid. So a frozen white knife is an ice sword. So it's a call out to Dawn. It's a call out to the White Dagger Towers and the White Sword Tower. The wall itself is like a tower, but it's also like a frozen river. So the White Knife is a frozen river. The wall is called a snake and a sword. It's a snake in one direction and a sword in another direction. It's also described as being alive with light. So the wall is like a snake sword made of ice that's alive with light. And the others have ice swords that are alive with moonlight. And Dawn is alive with light. Okay, you following me here? So now we've got White Sword Tower, White Dagger Towers. It's all the same symbol. It's an icy sword, and an icy sword can melt and be a river, or it can be, like I said, a sword or a tower. So now the best thing is, if this is a moon that's looking down on the clouds, well, the moon is full of white daggers. And it says they're pointed at the sky, like white daggers thrust into the belly of the sky. here's the thing. Sky is a castle below the Eyrie. So it implies that these white dagger towers are actually pointing down at the sky from the moon, which is above the sky. And white daggers pointing down at the earth from the moon, that's just moon meteor talk. And of course, like I've said, if black swords are the black dragon meteors, then white swords are like the icy meteors, or like the cold stars, cold meteor stars that we see in the eyes of the others who carry around white swords. So that's why I say the Kingsguard is there's such a fantastic others parallel, because they just endlessly give and give and give. And all of this is just so consistent. As you can see, all these places have the same symbols. The Tower of Joy had 3 white swords outside of it, one of whom had Dawn, the white sword. So it's armed with white daggers. In a different quote, it says, those 7 towers are, quote, bunched as tightly as arrows in a quiver on the shoulder of the great mountain. So now they're arrows. They're giant arrows that can be shot. So again, it's more moon meteor talk. Okay, so then there's also from the ground, the Eyrie appears to be right next to Alyssa's tears, which makes it look like the tears would be flowing from the Eyrie. And of course, tears are meteor symbols. The moon maidens cry. Okay, we got fiery tears for the fiery meteors, or bloody tears like bleeding stars. Alyssa's tears are a ghost torrent. The ghost torrent of Alyssa's tears. That's what it's called as. And of course, the wall, when it melts, it's said to weep. So melting ice and tears are many times made similar. Okay. Now here's the thing. It's a ghost torrent. But of course, House Dane made their castle on the Torrentine River, and that's where Dawn comes from. Then you have the ghost grass over at Ashai, where Azor Ahai comes from. The ghost grass, tall, pale, glowing stalks, pale as milk glass, glowing with the souls of the damned. So 6-foot tall blades of grass that are like milk glass. That's like a field of dawn swords, visually. But they glow with the souls of the damned. So they're like swords that have ghosts inside them. And here we have a ghost torrent of ice. And Dawn is the original ice. It comes from the Torrentine. Just point it all out here. Dawn, the white knife is a river that freezes. But only when Brandon Ice Eyes comes to town. Okay, so then we've got, let's see. Oh, I should also point out that the Sept of Baelor, which I've pointed out as an ice moon place and a home of the others, it has crystal towers, 7 crystal towers, instead of 7 white dagger towers. But of course, the swords of the others they look as though they're made of ice crystal. Well, they are made of ice crystal. They're described as looking like crystal. And of course, the warrior sons have the crystal sword sigil. So now we've got towers made of crystal that compares to the white dagger towers and white sword tower to give you the idea of a crystal sword tower. But David Lightbringer, you said there's Weirwood symbols at every ice moon place. What about the Sept of Baelor? There's no Weirwood tree at the Sept of Baelor. They worship the 7. And the High Septon carries a Weirwood staff mounted with a crystal orb. So the crystal orb is the symbol of obviously a moon. It would be an ice moon because ice and crystal are made parallel. And it's on top of a Weirwood staff. So you've got this cosmic axis tree, and on top of it is the moon. Just like at Craster's Keep, we have the ladder, and on top of the ladder is the moon maiden giving birth. At the top of the Tower of Joy is the moon maiden giving birth, and the blue rose petal moon meteor storm coming out of the top. So it's over and over and over again. Same symbols. High Septon, Weirwood staff, crowned with a crystal orb. It's and yes, somebody make that. I share that. Would love to have a Weirwood staff with a crystal orb. I'd have it every live stream. Cool. So, continuing on with the Eyrie. And of course, just to run through it, White Harbor has a gnarly Weirwood at the Godswood. White Sword Tower had the Weirwood Shield. The Eyrie has the Weirwood Thrones. The Wall has the Black Gate and other Weirwoods built into it. The Tower of Joy has Lyanna. Obviously, the tower is a Weirwood symbol, but Lyanna was the Knight of the Laughing Tree, which is another thing we should talk about. Lyanna is an ice queen. She's a Knight's Queen figure. She transforms into a Weirwood warrior, the Knight of the Laughing Tree. So you could say that she gives birth to the Knight of the Laughing Tree. That's the idea. Just as Knight's Queen gave birth to the others who are Weirwood warriors, right? So there you go. Craster's Keep is in a Weirwood forest, and it has the ladder. And then, of course, the Wolf's Wood is also a Weirwood forest. The Whispering Wood is named after the Weirwoods, who are, the whisperings of the Weirwoods is the communication of the Greenseers. Okay, so now we're going to the scene with Lysa and Sansa, where Lysa sort of tries to throw Sansa out of the moon door, or threatens to, or whatever. Okay, so check this out. And we're doing well, by the way. I'm very happy with how this stream is going. I'm getting through a lot of my notes here. My voice hasn't failed. So thank you guys for showing up. Sorry about all the false starts. Thank you for the support. And let's see. Oh, yeah, I did have some more PayPals too. Let's not skip these. Okay, so let's see here. Her small mouth twitched in a petulant smile. If you are tried and found to be guilty of crimes for which you stand accused, then by the king's own laws, you must pay with your life's blood. We keep no headsman in the Eyrie, my lord of Lannister. Open the moon door. The press of spectators parted. A narrow Weirwood door stood between two slender marble pillars, a crescent moon carved into the white wood. Those standing closest edged backward as a pair of guardsmen marched through. One man removed the heavy bronze bars. The second pulled the door inward. Their blue cloaks rose, snapping from their shoulders. You guys catch that blue rose reference there? Their blue cloaks rose, snapping from their shoulders, caught in the sudden gust of wind that came howling through the open door. So there's a wolf reference and a blue rose reference when the moon doors opened. Beyond was the emptiness of the night sky, speckled with cold, uncaring stars. That's great. So, what's behind the moon door, guys? Black night, the void, and cold, uncaring stars. Cold stars are already enough to make us think of the others, but when you call them uncaring, it gives them personality. So now it sounds like the stars are people that don't care. That sound like the others. Implacable, vengeful, cold, and hateful. So there you go. That's pretty clear. Behind the moon door, behind the Weirwood, inside the realm of the Weirwood, that's where we can find the others. And then Lysa says, "Behold the king's justice," Lysa Arryn said. Torch flames fluttered like pennons along the walls, and here and there an odd torch guttered out. So we're putting out fire. The king's justice is, of course, Ilyn Payne. Ilyn Payne has, I don't want to get into his symbolism, but it's all like skulls and icy imagery. He also wields Ned's ice for a while after Ned is killed. Ned and Ilyn Payne actually have similar symbolism. Ned, of course, is an executioner figure. That's how we meet him, chopping someone's head off. So obviously Night's King was a Stark, or at least he was said to be a Stark, and the Starks have the blood of the others. So very frequently the Starks are used as parallels to the others, even though the Starks also probably gave us the last hero in the Night's Watch. So Starks we'll see on both sides of things, because they were on both sides of things, essentially. So the King's Justice could be a Stark, could be Ilan Payne, could be the others themselves. All similar symbols, if you will. And although I take this as a compliment, I hate Jordan Peterson with a passion. So I will take the spirit of the compliment, but reject Jordan Peterson and his horribly sexist pseudo-psychological analysis, which I find to be just the purest garbage. But moving right along, Lysa, I think this unwise, Catelyn Stark said as the black wind swirled. And I know he does understand archetypes. I'm not saying that he's entirely... There are some little bits of Jordan Peterson that you could come across and be like, oh, he's deep and smart. And he talks about mythical archetypes occasionally in a similar way as people like myself. But for the most part, his whole worldview is completely fucked, in my opinion. So I very much dislike him. And the fact that he wanders into the ground of archetypes and mythology actually just pisses me off, because I feel like he misuses all that. Anyway, moving right along again. Lysa, I think this unwise, Catelyn Stark said as the black wind swirled around the hall. Her sister ignored her. You want a trial, my lord of Lannister? Very well, a trial you shall have. My son will listen to whatever you care to say, and you shall hear his judgment. Then you may leave by one door or the other. And so the other door here, she is, yeah, you know who else knew about archetypes? The Nazis. That's true, John Eyesize. That's true. They were also into occultism, much of which I find interesting. Not the Nazis, but occultism in general. So, yeah, there is that uncomfortable crossover. But it's kind of like Norse mythology. Like, just because some white supremacists are into Norse mythology and use some Odin runes doesn't mean we can't explore Norse mythology and enjoy it. Just sort of making that disclaimer. We're not moving along. I'm trying to move along. All right. So, last thing I will say, if you like Jordan Peterson and you want to comment on this video and correct me about how I don't really know about Jordan Peterson, just save yourself the time. I'm just going to block you. I'm not going to argue with you, respond to you. Not interested in that conversation at all. So just FYI. And if you're offended by that, then go the fuck away. I don't care. So there we go. By one door or the other. So when she says one door or the other is the moon door there. So she's labeling the moon door behind which we find the cold stars as the other door. So this is this is again similar to the other dreamers that Bran sees. You know, the other dreamers, they've fallen to their death. They're impaled on the ice. Well, here we have the other door. And when you get pushed out the other door, you end up a bloody smear on the cold stone below. That's what happens. So that's what I'm trying to show you, is that people being pushed out the moon door is essentially the same thing as Bran's dreamers that fell to their death and got impaled by the ice spires. It should be apparent by now, I hope. Then it says, she looked so pleased with herself, Tyrion thought, and small wonder. How could a trial threaten her when her weakling son was the Lord Judge? Tyrion glanced at her moon door. Mother, I want to see him fly, the boy had said. How many men had the snot-nosed little wretch sent through that door already? Then when Tyrion asked for trial by combat, one second. I actually need a 420 break here. 1 minute. Let's pull up some moon door artwork. Let me get a breath of not fresh air. Green air. Garth air. Do I have actual moon door? Yes. Oh, this is the one I want. This one is by Wickard Dahaku. It's DAH0KU Dahaku. Artists give me the weirdest names to pronounce sometimes. It's just terrible. Come on, guys. Use a name everyone can. Anyways, great artwork though. Let me show it to you. Here we go. This is Peter pushing out Lysa. Only cat. Ah. And I've got a moon door one too. I'll show you in a second. 1 second. Be right back. All right. That is better. Yeah, the floor hole is pretty cool. I will say that. The hole in the floor, of course, that's the TV version. I did like that. It was pretty cool. It was also round, so it gave us a moon moon idea. But of course, yes, the moon door in the books is vertical. And I will show you my other moon door artwork. This one is by Thomas Denmark, whose name I remember because it's his actual name and it's easy to say. And okay, you get the idea. Thomas Denmark's take on the moon door is as such. I'm a flower guy. I only do extracts once in a while. Extracts will it's a little too gnarly. The vape pen I do sometimes, but it kind of dries out my throat. So here you can see the crescent moon. See the two pillars. All right, let me go back to reading because we've got some symbolism coming up here. Nope, it's a door. It's a wooden door. So when Lysa asks for a champion, it says, a dozen other men all spoke at once, clamoring to be heard. Tyrion found it disheartening to realize so many strangers were eager to kill him. Perhaps this had not been such a clever plan at all. So that's a good one. A dozen other men. These are all Knights of the Vale. Many of them are wearing Vale colors. Varys Egan is the one, Sir Vardis Egan is the one who is the champion. He's wearing all blue and silver, others colors. So and then so a dozen other men. So of course, the 12 number symbolism is not just for the last hero's dozen. And remember, I'm suggesting that the last hero's dozen got sacrificed to create the power of the others before they got turned into green zombies. That's the bifurcation thing. So Night's King, he ruled for 13 years, and he was the 13th Lord Commander. And then we've got 13 of the last hero's companions. It really seems like these are symbolism numbers, maybe not literal numbers, but if the Night's King ruled for 13 years, and you have to think, I was going to say it takes 9 months to conceive a baby, but Melisandre does the shadow babies in like 1 day, so that may not be the case. Let's see, what was I going to say? Yes, but in any case, a dozen other men are offering to kill Tyrion. And these are all champions of Night's Queen. So if it was that these the original others were created with the sacrifice of the last hero's 12, then there might have been 12 original others. That is a possibility. We always think either 7 or 12. So yeah, so Bronn would totally be the last hero. He's a ragtag, he's the crippled bastards and broken things champion. He's the dregs of society going against the very noble, blue-blooded, if you will, Vardis Egan. And I do think that George is wanting us to think about the others as royalty, blue blood. The Kingsguard have all this false honor and mystique and stuff. And I think George wants to use that for the others. The Night's Watch, on the other hand, they are the criminals and the scum, the crippled bastards and broken things. So kind of makes sense that you'd see that kind of thing. We see that again also with the Arthur Dane versus Smiling Knight. The Smiling Knight he's the outcast figure. And again, I went back and forth on who was who in that fight. But one of them was noble and one of them was an outcast. So we see that. Conceive a baby. Did I say conceive? Yeah, baby. Gotta take it slow. Yeah. I probably meant grow the baby, gestate the baby. Sorry. You get the idea. That was a funny. Okay, so we got a dozen other men volunteering. Oh, I said this. I'm sorry. I'm actually hopping back and forth between two different scenes. Obviously, one is Lysa and Sansa from A Storm of Swords. And I also just jumped back to Tyrion confronting Lysa, which is in A Game of Thrones. I didn't explain that. I'm sorry if that's confusing. These are the two main scenes that we get in the Eyrie, and the symbolism is complementary. So that's why I'm bouncing back and forth. The moon door is featured in both, and the icy symbolism of the Eyrie is spelled out in both. But I apologize for not, yeah. Michael James with a super sticker. Thank you, Michael James. I think he's happy with the double entendres here. No doubt. Okay, so here's one from Catelyn talking about Lord Robert. Her parting from the Eyrie had not been pleasant. She had offered to take Lord Robert with her to foster him at Winterfell for a few years. The company of other boys would do him good, she had dared to suggest. Lysa's rage had been frightening to behold. Sister or no, she replied, if you try to steal my son, you will leave by the moon door. So we got this other idea that, again, we're always trying to steal a baby back from the others. So that's implied here. If you try to steal this baby, Lysa will kill you or try to turn you into an other. So that's pretty cool there. And well, yeah, sometimes you have to try many times to conceive. So it could take 9 months to conceive. You just have to try many times. Wouldn't be a 9-month long active conception. No one has that much endurance. Let's see here. Oh, Christine with a very generous PayPal. Thank you, Christine. Binging your content just about every day. Keep it up. Thank you. Very off topic. Do you think we will see the dragon book that Tyrion took from the Stark library again? Where was it all this time? I doubt that Tyrion would have it, because when he fled across the narrow sea in a wine cask, probably he didn't take anything with him. But he may have learned something in that book that he could then bring up. Because obviously one of Tyrion's roles is going to be to provide Dany with some much needed dragon knowledge. Tyrion is spelled out as having a ton of dragon knowledge. So he probably picked up something from that book. I don't know where that book is, though. That is not a knowable thing, I don't think. Let's see here. So then we've got oh yes, this is the best scene. This is where Sansa is approaching Lysa when she's been called to the High Hall of the Eyrie to answer for her crime. Kissing Peter, I saw you kiss him. Anyways, she looked about uncertainly. Lady Lysa sat on the dais in a high-backed chair of carved weirwood, alone. To her right was a second chair, taller than her own, with a stack of blue cushions piled on the seat, but Lord Robert was not in it. Sansa hoped he'd recovered. Marillion was not like to tell her, though. Sansa walked down the blue silk carpet between rows of fluted pillars, slim as lances. The floors and walls of the high hall were made of milk-white marble veined with blue. Shafts of pale daylight slanted down through narrow arched windows along the eastern wall. Between the windows were torches, mounted in high iron sconces, but none of them was lit. Her footsteps fell softly on the carpet. Outside, the wind blew cold and lonely. Amidst so much white marble, even the sunlight looked chilly somehow, though not half so chilly as her aunt. Lady Lysa had dressed in a gown of cream-colored velvet and a necklace of sapphires and moonstones. Her auburn hair had been done up in a thick braid and fell across one shoulder. She sat in the high seat watching her niece approach, her face red and puffy beneath paint and powder. On the wall behind her hung a huge banner, the moon and falcon of House Arryn in cream and blue. So I will stop there and talk about symbolism. Oh, we did a mute. Okay, so there's a lot here going on, right? The white marble is snow white. It looks cold. That's easy. So this is like an ice castle. But the thing is, the marble is these pillars are as slim as lances. And lances are made of wood. So the slim, icy pillars are implied as trees or implied as being made of wood. So we've got frozen wood, and it's also blue veined marble. So literally, there's like blue blood veins in the marble. So it makes you think of the blue blood of the others. So this is all pretty obvious. These lance-like pillars are like frozen white trees, and inside of them are the others. No, I was muted for a second, Carl. They're not trolling. I was a very brief mute. So essentially it's perfect. It's just, again, it's all complementary. We've got these dead Weirwood thrones in a chilly castle. The Weirwoods won't take root in the Godswood. Instead, we have a white marble statue of Alyssa. So it's like basically a statue of the Night's Queen. And again, with Alyssa's tears being a frozen waterfall, just like the wall is a frozen stream that when it melts is said to weep. So frozen tears, same idea. It's an ice wall, block of ice, comes from the Moon Maiden. And then again, lances that are like frozen trees, and inside we can see the blood vessels of the others, as if the others are just all frozen together inside the tree. And it makes the sunlight look chilly. So this is this whole idea. Remember, I just read the quote about the Eyrie being like a frozen honeycomb, right? So the idea is honey, as I explained on the aborted live stream, honey represents the food of the gods, the nectar of the gods throughout world mythology. And honey, of course, can also be associated with fire via its golden color. And so the idea of a frozen honeycomb, this is describing the frozen fire of the gods. This is, again, because Azor Ahai was a dragon person. He gave his fiery seed and soul to Night's Queen, who flipped that fire to ice and made the others who have cold, burning star eyes, and they're like ice dragons. So the sunlight gets frozen. The sunlight, that's the light of the Sun King, Azor Ahai. It's frozen here. It's chilly. And everything is turned cold. And the Weirwoods are cold and dead. And now let's talk about the idea that Robb and Arryn makes everyone fly. He likes to make people fly. The thing is, flying is really falling, just as in Bran's dream, where flying and falling are described as the same thing. And Bloodraven says every flight begins with a fall. He's making people fly, but they're actually falling to their icy deaths. Okay. The thing is, that's actually a metaphor for creating the others. Because again, the people in Bran's dream that fell, they got impaled on the ice. Those are the other dreamers that are frozen now. Those are the others. So Robb and Arryn represents a green seer sitting on a cold and dead Weirwood throne, an otherized Weirwood throne, and he's creating others with the moon door. It's like he's inside the Weirwood, pushing the others out of the Eyrie and making them. So it's pretty cool. You can also see the Azor Ahai invasion angle with Tyrion. Tyrion, of course, whether he actually is a Targaryen, does have dragon symbolism, demon monkey symbolism, gargoyle symbolism, with gargoyles being related to dragon mythology. And he's also got the red and gold Lannister coloring. So Tyrion is a stunted little evil Azor Ahai figure. That's who he is. He invades the Eyrie, and that's what causes all this trouble. Now, it's true, he is brought there by Catelyn, who is a Nissa Nissa figure. So that is basically kind of like Catelyn, Nissa Nissa, trapping Azor Ahai in the Weirwood net. That's essentially what's going on. And we've seen that trapping action happen a lot of times. So just to set the record straight on Robb and Aaron, symbolically, he's representing a green seer. That's obvious because he's sitting on a Weirwood throne. Now, does he actually have green seer blood? And is some of his craziness due to him having green dreams? I don't know. I don't think that's a far-fetched theory. I know some people are very wedded to that theory. I actually don't have strong feelings on it. I think it would make sense if he does have gifts, and that's part of what's driving him crazy. However, Lysa Arryn, it's spelled out that she's addicted to sweet sleep, and she breastfeeds Robin up to the age of 7, so that's why Robin is addicted to her breast milk, is because he's getting the sweet sleep from her breast milk. And essentially he's being fed drugs, and they're both opium addicts. That's responsible for a lot of his sickness, I think. But he could have, obviously he's related. He's from First Men houses. Sorry, I didn't mute that cough there, but First Men houses can always have skin changer blood. So yeah, Justin, I'm not actually a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson's books either. I don't speak ill of Brandon because he's a nice guy and I like his podcast, the Reading Excuses podcast, but I'm not a fan of Stormlight Archive at all. I think it's unreadable, personally, but that's just, it's just my take. It's super heavy-handed, super long, spoon-feeding everything, overly puerile. Characters don't really grab me. Yeah, I don't like to hate on any artist, but I'm just not a fan of Sanderson. His fiction, anyway. Again, podcast is great. Mistborn is all right. Yeah, that one's better. Yeah. So then let's see here. Is there any other quotes I want to read from the Eyrie scene? I think that's pretty much what I want to show. Let's see here. So yeah, the Tyrion Lysa thing, that's kind of like, I know Tyrion doesn't really like sacrifice Lysa, or I mean, Lady Cat. You know, usually it's, obviously I talk about Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood net. Here it's a little different because Catelyn has arrested Tyrion and trapped him. But the trapping is also part of it. So like Azor Ahai kills Nissa Nissa, who is a cat woman, meaning a child of the forest woman, a cat-eyed child of the forest woman, just like Catelyn is a cat. Kills Nissa Nissa to get into the Weirwood net. But Nissa Nissa, when she dies, her spirit goes into the Weirwood net too, just like any dead child of the forest. So we see over and over with Azor Ahai and Nissa Nissa, they both go into the Weirwood net. And it could be that is where Nissa Nissa's dead spirit becomes the Night's Queen figure, because it's usually the Night's Queen that's trapping Azor Ahai. But here it's kind of like Catelyn is trapping Tyrion, Azor Ahai, and bringing him into the cold area. And then he's put in prison, right? But Azor Ahai's presence there also is what pushes Vardis Egan out. So there's this supplanting action. And there's a lot of it. Sansa kind of supplants Lysa, doesn't she? And Peter supplants John Arryn. Okay, because Peter Baelish and Lysa plotted together to kill John Arryn and to cause all this drama with the Starks and the Lannisters. So remember, Peter Baelish's sigil is a mockingbird, and the mockingbird is one of those birds that lays its eggs in other birds' nests and tricks other birds into raising their own. And that is essentially what has happened here. A lot of people think that Robin might be Peter Baelish's. And we also know that Peter Baelish impregnated Lysa, and that baby was aborted by Hoster. So, and even if Robin isn't Peter's, Peter has arranged for John Arryn's death, and then he has moved into his place. So, yeah, there's several birds that do that. So essentially, we see this supplanting where Azor Ahai has taken the place of somebody inside the icy side of things. And that is, you can think of John Arryn as the exiled other. Yeah, the cuckoos do that as well. You can think of John Arryn as the exiled other. Azor Ahai comes in, he pushes John Arryn out. So, and of course, John Arryn has other symbolism like all people in House Arryn do. So, yeah. It's very likely that Robin is Peter's son, and it's going to make it more sad when Peter engineers Robin's death, or at least tries to. But yeah, Lysa says John could not give me sons. Exactly. I think there's a lot of clues supporting that. So there you go. I think that's probably a good place to stop. We're 2.5 hours in. I got through actually all of my notes. I didn't expect to. We didn't read John's dream. Actually, we have time for that. Let's do John's dream. It's pretty quick, and it's just going to fit in with everything we've already talked about. So I will also put out last call for questions, guys. If you have any questions that you would like to send me via PayPal or Super Chat, I will answer them. So here's John's brand dream, as I call it. Yeah, if you appreciate what I'm doing, that's also a good excuse to send me a PayPal just to say thank you. I always appreciate those. So when he closed his eyes, he dreamed of dire wolves. There were 5 of them when there should have been 6. Also, 6 Stark kids, 6 wolves, 6 others in the prologue. Many people have noticed that. And they were scattered, each apart from the others. He felt a deep ache of emptiness, a sense of incompleteness. The forest was vast and cold. And they were so small, so lost. His brothers were out there somewhere, and his sister, but he had lost their scent. He sat on his haunches and lifted his head to the darkening sky, and his cry echoed through the forest, a long, lonely, mournful sound. As it died away, he pricked up his ears, listening for an answer, but the only sound was the sigh of blowing snow. John? The call came from behind him, softer than a whisper, but strong too. Can a shout be silent? He turned his head, searching for his brother, for a glimpse of a lean gray shape moving beneath the trees, but there was nothing, only a weirwood. And yes, the silent shout is a thing. I like that it's put that way here, silent shout. It's the weirwoods look like they're screaming but don't make any noise. And I've always looked at that as a silent scream. So here we see Bran's weirwood communication is like a silent shout. So that is a confirmation. That's how we're supposed to think of the weirwoods as, is shouting in silence. Mute appeal, you might say. So he turns around and sees a weirwood. It seemed to sprout from solid rock, its pale roots twisting up from a myriad of fissures and hairline cracks. The tree was slender compared to other weirwoods he had seen, no more than a sapling, yet it was growing as he watched, its limbs thickening as they reached for the sky. Wary, he circled the smooth white trunk until he came to the face. Red eyes looked at him. Fierce eyes they were, yet glad to see him. The Weirwood had his brother's face. Had his brother always had 3 eyes? Not always, came the silent shout, not before the crow. He sniffed at the bark, smelled wolf and tree and boy, but behind that there were other scents, the rich brown smell of warm earth and the hard gray smell of stone and something else, something terrible. Death, he knew. He was smelling death. He cringed back, his hair bristling, and bared his fangs. So let me stop here. First of all, it's cool that John can literally smell the Weirwood cave that Bran is in. He's smelling the skulls and stuff like that. But this is more proof that Bloodraven is the 3-eyed crow. Okay, so 3-eyed crow deniers, whom I scorn in good humor. I actually think this is not like a horrible theory, but just one that's not true. So this is not actually a scorn thing. But I do believe that the 3-eyed crow is absolutely and always Bloodraven. There's no confusion about that. I think people are reading into this something that's not there. It all has to do with when Bran is like, "Are you the 3-eyed crow?" And he's like, "A crow? Yeah, one time I used to be a crow of the Night's Watch. Yeah, that's it, yeah." And everyone's like, "Oh, Bloodraven doesn't know who the 3-eyed crow is." But the thing is, everything that Bloodraven says to him in the cave is identical to what the quote-unquote 3-eyed crow says to Bran in the dream, because they're the same person. And then Bran refers to Bloodraven as the 3-eyed crow after they're in the dream. So Bran thinks about them as the same. And they, again, have the same voice, say the same things. So here in this dream, we see that John is perceiving Bran as a tree, as a sapling that grows from a rock and then grows up on the spot and then sprouts a face that is Bran's face talking to him, but it has 3 eyes. Okay. So Bran did not do this on purpose. Okay. Bran did not think to himself, "I'm going to appear to John as a tree with 3 eyes. No, this is George showing us that in the astral realm, everything is symbolized, okay? It's just like when Melisandre sees Bloodraven and Bran as like a wooden corpse face and a boy with a wolf's face or something next to him or a wolf beside him. Everything appears in a symbolic form in dreams. And the people behind the symbolic forms don't necessarily control those forms. So Bran appears as a tree, a 3-eyed tree, because he's a green seer who's currently hooked up to a tree and he's opened his 3rd eye. Bloodraven appears as a 3-eyed crow for whatever reason, because he identifies as a crow, because he's trying to teach Bran to fly. And so that's the way that the dream manifests Bloodraven, is a 3-eyed crow. But if you went up to Bran and said, "Are you the 3-eyed Weirwood?" He'd be like, I sit in Weirwoods and I can show you about opening your 3rd eye. Yeah, sure. But like, he wouldn't be like, "Oh yes, my nickname is 3-eyed Weirwood." So again, I think this is more evidence of how images work in dreams. And thus you can see that Bloodraven not immediately going, "Oh yes, I'm the 3-eyed crow." Like, the 3-eyed crow is not a name. That's what Bran describes what he sees in his dream. So I think I've made my point in any case. Going to the symbolism here. Bran appears as a tree, and then he boops John on the forehead. So let me keep reading. It says, "Don't be afraid. I like it in the dark. No one can see you, but you can see them. But first you have to open your eyes. See, like this." And then the tree reached down and touched him. And suddenly he was back in the mountains, his paws sunk deep in a drift of snow as he stood upon the edge of a great precipice. Before him, the skirling pass opened up into airy emptiness, and a long V-shaped valley lay spread beneath him like a quilt, awash in all the colors of an autumn afternoon. Then it says, "A vast blue-white wall plugged one end of the vale, squeezing between the mountains as if it had shouldered them aside, and for a moment he thought he had dreamed himself back to Castle Black. Then he realized he was looking at a river of ice several thousand feet high. Under that glittering cold cliff was a great lake, its deep cobalt waters reflecting the snow-capped peaks that ringed it. There were men down in the valley, he saw now, many men, thousands, a huge host. Some were tearing great holes in the half-frozen ground, while others trained for war. Dun, dun, dun. He watched as a swarming mass of riders charged a shield wall astride horses no larger than ants. Think of Daenerys and the ants that climbed over the wall that obviously symbolized the others in her Dance of Dragons chapter. The sound of their mock battle was a rustling of steel leaves drifting faintly on the wind. Their encampment. Okay, so I can stop right there. So we've got others training for war. They're riding ants, or maybe spiders, ice spiders, perhaps. And again, the ants are other symbols. The ants are hive mind, insect. Again, Dany has the ants climb over the wall that she compares to the wall of Westeros. So here what's happening is this is a lot like the Tower of Joy dream, where Ned drinks milk of the poppy and then goes into a dream sequence that takes him to the symbolic heart of winter and a confrontation with the others. So here Jon is in a dream and he has his third eye opened by Bran the Weirwood tree, which is very similar to having your third eye opened with Weirwood paste. So then Jon has his first ever wolf dream. So his third eye has been opened, and he's basically been transported by the Weirwood, or you could say he's looking through the Weirwood and seeing the realm of the others. And what do we see? We see a vast blue-white wall, which he thinks is the ice wall of Westeros. But then he calls it a frozen river of ice. But of course, the wall is like a frozen stream, and Alyssa's tears is literally a frozen river of ice that is compared to the wall. Then we see the cold pond, which is the frozen lake symbol. We talked about that tons and tons. So that's good. Then we see the others and they're training for war. So basically, this is just like peering into the heart of winter at looking at other training camp as they get ready to invade Westeros. There's a whole nother quote that says, across the long lake, one of the mounds moved. Hang on a second. Across the long lake, one of the mounds moved. He watched it more closely and saw that it was not dirt at all, but alive, a shaggy lumbering beast with a snake for a nose and tusks larger than those of the greatest boar that had ever lived. And the thing riding it was huge as well, and his shape was wrong, too thick in the leg and hips to be a man. So of course that's a giant. Sorry, good girl. That's a giant that he's looking on, a mammoth. But the others are models of the Sidhe, and the Sidhe are the people of the mounds. And we've seen that in the Varamir prologue, George uses that. The blue-eyed shadows walk amongst the mounds after Varamir invades Thistle and invades the frozen Weirwood tree and gets turned into the one-eyed wolf. Then the blue-eyed shadows move amongst the mounds. So it's George showing us that the others are like the Sidhe. They come from the burial mounds. They actually come from the Weirwoods. But the Sidhe are tied to both mounds and sacred forests. But so George gives the mound thing a call out. So here we see amongst the camp of the others, the mounds are moving. So then the dream ends. It says a sudden gust of cold made his fur stand up, and the air thrilled to the sound of wings. As he lifted his eyes to the ice-white mountain heights above, a shadow plummeted out of the sky. A shrill scream split the air. He glimpsed blue-gray pinions spread wide, shutting out the sun. Ghost, Jon shouted, sitting up. He could feel the talons, the pain. Ghost, to me. So basically, Ghost gets attacked by an eagle here, and then he wakes up. So it's a little bit like like Ned waking up, being woken by Vayan Pool, who's a symbol of the blue pond. Here, Jon is woken by this blue-gray eagle. So then we've got, let's see. There's also Jon death foreshadowing here. So Jon is in his wolf ghost, and he's driven out of it by the talons of this eagle, right? The thing is, a minute later, he says he could still feel the talons burning him. So think of a burning eagle, a burning talons, forcing John out of his wolf. Well, Melisandre says to John, the Lord of Light has fiery talons, Jon Snow, after she burns that very same eagle out of the sky during the battle for the wall. So this is more foreshadowing from Melisandre using the fiery talons of R'hllor to drive Jon's spirit out of his wolf body when it's time to put him back in his resurrected body. And again, I will apologize for telling you that Ghost's wolf body is going to die and try to console you with the knowledge that the spirit of Ghost will be merged with Jon's spirit, and both of those spirits will go back into Jon's resurrected body. So it's only Ghost's wolf body that's going to die. And it's just occurred to me that Ghost's dead wolf body would make a great fire white. So then he could be a ghost wolf with fiery red eyes, which is already what he is anyway. He's called Ghost, and his red eyes glow like two red suns in a certain scene. Just like when they catch the light just right. So it's like when Ghost catches the light of R'hllor, the Lord of Light, he might be a fiery ghost wolf. So what I'm seeing is a whited Jon and a whited ghost wolf. And the Jon ghost spirit may well just be able to flip back and forth between them. So this is my updated theory. Ghost's body is going to die to resurrect Jon, but I think there's a decent chance that the wolf body will be whited and he'll be a ghost wolf with fiery red eyes. And wouldn't that just make a ton of sense? Ta-da! I stuck the landing. Thank you, guys. I got a couple super chats I want to go back for, and I will take last call for questions again. Jenna says, I just wanted to say, I love your theories. You clearly dedicate much time, and it's obvious in your concise and comprehensive videos. Thank you. Say hi to Quinn. I will. Quinn scored tickets for the Dune opening today. Got some. I already mentioned that. I'm repeating myself. All right. Thank you, Jenna. Tech Life with a $4.99. Thank you, Tech Life. And then a question. Why do you think the Black Gate is the only weirwood described with other symbolism? Oh, it's not. Any significance to the blind eyes? So the Black Gate glows like milk and moonlight, which is definitely other symbolism. They glow, they have milk white flesh, and they glow with moonlight. However, we also see in the Varamir prologue, there's a weirwood that's a pale shadow and it's armored in ice. And the others are pale shadows armored in ice. And there's also the frozen weirwood on the island outside the Crofters village where Stannis is. That one, the islands punch up from the frozen lake like some drowned giant's fist. So the others would be drowned giants that are in the frozen pond that are trying to break out of the frozen pond, just like Lucifer trying to escape the frozen pond in Dante's ninth circle of hell, which is where that frozen pond symbolism comes from. Thank you, Cleo, for your tale. So that is the super chats. Let me check on the PayPals. Yes. Melinda. Oh, Shadow Demon. No question, just extra Dune fun money. Because of Quinn, I eventually found your stuff, so have a blast. Right on. Thank you, Quinn, and thank you, Shadow Demon. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, this has been a great stream. It has been everything I hoped it would be. It was a 3-hour stream. I said I didn't have a 3-hour stream in me, but I did. And we've blasted through all of these White Walker scenes. There's a couple that I still want to get to, actually. We didn't do the Whispering Wood, and we didn't do the Battle of Castle Black where the stair is burned and a bunch of wildlings jump off the stair and into the snow as if they were being kicked out of a burning tree. But we'll have to save that for next time. So there you go, guys. The others used to live in the Weirwood. They've clearly been exiled. Their existence is partly due to the fiery seed of Night's King, partly due to the icy womb of Night's Queen. Night's Queen seems to be doing some shadow binding. And there you go. There we are. You're quite welcome. And I'll have that Melisandre Secrets 3 video out either Thursday or Friday, I would predict. So I will see you then. And then I'll be back on Sunday for some kind of live stream. So there it is. Cheers, guys. Happy Sunday. Or no, not Sunday. It's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday.